I think like private eye jobs are way too easy this day and age. Just gotta Facebook that shit. You can find out yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, she favorited like 5 of his pictures. Of course she's fucking him.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, look, there's a picture of her fucking him. Oh, I guess I gotta like it. You know, I don't want to look like everybody. Too bad they got rid of that dislike button. Boy, would I be clicking that if that was still there.
Really give him a piece of my mind. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I'll show him. I'll show him who's boss of the internet world.
I'm just gonna try this thing. I don't know where this other fucking thing is, so I'm just gonna.
Have you ever seen those private eye jobs pop up before? Like when you're like looking for work and it's like you see like on there, it's like there's literally ones like, I want you to go. This is where my girlfriend works at. I want you to go take some pictures of her and I'll give you $200. Like, is there ever like a part of you that ever goes like, you know what? That always is this a start to a good movie right here? Like. Maybe I should take this.
I feel like that actually would be a good movie idea. Just the idea, because we do live in this day and age where, you know, there's like, you need a special license to pull this off. You need a X, Y, and Z in order to get this done. But now we are in this age where it's just like, you got a smartphone? You have a car? All right, well, let's see what fucking happens. And I think that right there would actually be a good idea for me. Just some guy, I don't know, let me see, I guess. I can give it a shot.
And no, I don't mean necessarily like it's an idea for a movie, but like more like a real life, like will you be on a real movie adventure, like yourself, if you took that job for $200? Like, where do you think you're going to end up next? Like, where is this going to go? Like, not like...
I can see shit going bad real quickly. I can see that, you know, just because you don't know who the fuck these people are. You know, you can end up with like your fucking kidneys missing in a bathtub.
Yeah, I could go that far. I bet you it'd more be the other way around, where it's just really actually not exciting at all. It's just like, oh, I went to Walmart and I like hung out for 2 hours and she finally walked out and I took some pictures of her pushing a shopping cart and yep, that is where she works now. I bet you'd be more like that. It'd be like, oh, this is it. It's not like it's gonna be like a buddy cop comedy next, you know, and then next thing you know, we're gonna be on this big old adventure and things are gonna start escalating, you know, as you know, time goes on. Where are we gonna go to next?
I can see it going one of two ways. I can see it possibly just going down this direction of I can see it like starting off maybe like you know that thing we're about to fucking sneeze, you just fucking don't. Fucking worse.
And it's like pain.
God fucking damn it. It's just like, yeah, it's just that we're going to do it. No, we're not. No, just
hold on. Nose. Bill forgot to push the lever. Wait a second. God damn it. Bill's asleep over there.
Now the pressure's on. Now the pressure's on. I just, you know. Anyway.
Oh, well, we can't get Bill out of here. He's got a union job here in the old nasal cavity.
He says he's not going back to the anus. He's not pulling that lever no more.
Nope. He likes his $50 an hour to push this lever. Every once in a while you need a sneeze. Too bad, though, he's not really the greatest at his job, and it doesn't happen enough that he's, like, really on key.
You really gotta keep those union guys happy. Otherwise, you know, they're gonna turn their back, and the next thing you know, all the white blood cells take a day off, and cancer sets in.
Yep,
That's how your body works.
You know, and he's one of those brown cells, you know, so you can't say anything about this day and age. You know, you just, you know, even if he's not the greatest employee, you gotta still treat him like he is one, because, you know, if you're the one that gets rid of him and, you know, sends him down to Cancer Way, you're the asshole.
I really wish I knew more about human biology, otherwise I could really lay into that one. But yeah, I think we all know where it's going. Anyway, but the whole idea of a dude just picking, like, you know, just random jobs, like, oh, $200 to spy my girlfriend. I feel like that could be a very slippery slope. Like, it could be the most uneventful thing possible, or it could lead you down some, like, you know, who the fuck's this creeper that, you know, you're like, well, I'm just a man on a job. You're getting paid like $20 to stalk somebody, and because if without a license, I think right there you're having trouble. Have you seen like advertisements for that?
I have, and not like a whole lot of them, but I've ran across them before, like in like the last like 15 years of, you know, like those once in a while where you start flipping through the Indeed point, or like you're flipping through Craigslist or something. You do see those ones pop up, and there's that moment here inside where you're like, oh my god, this is my Humphrey Bogart alive. And the next thing you know, you have to go out and get yourself a cool hat and a suit and everything, get some cigarettes or cigars, you know, and then next thing you know, everything just starts narrating itself as you're going on, and the colors start to fade away a bit. Like you
I'll
assume it's gonna
blend
be
in.
so awesome.
So I'm just gonna blend into the environment. Yet you're the only one dressed like it's 1934.
Exactly. Going on to solve, just cases and stuff. Because I don't think you technically need a license. I mean, it helps if you have a private investigation license, but I think it's one of those jobs where you don't need a license. Is generally when somebody's like, they're like, well, if I'm gonna pay you $5,000, I kind of want somebody who's licensed, But for $200, you're like, fuck it, go get that bitch. She's at Walmart. Get your camera out. Get your iPhone out. I don't care.
I just imagine just like the slow saxophone coming in, just panning over like Walmart, like
just outside the car, it was smoking.
It was a cold December night at Walmart, where the dreams are hard and the women are harder.
Yeah, exactly. Get in the back of the car. There's like just a couple of like whiskey bottles back there. Be like, yeah, we've been on the stakeout here for three whole days now, looking for Therese. She's supposed to come out of the Walmart here. I was given information that she's been working here as a new job, in a town 3 counties away.
She had a chance to play it big. She was moved to the electronics section, but things didn't pan out over the argument of return DVD of Minions 2.
Yeah.
Now she finds herself in the frozen section, the very bottom of Walmart.
She was caught taking out SNES classics, 6 months ago and selling them behind the store for twice the price.
Kid that desperate, likely to do something stupid. Here to catch her before she does.
And we've all seen kids before. They're stupid. Stupid is, stupid does. That's a child's mind.
Who am I? You can call me Saul Bigman. What do I do? Well, for $20, I'll stalk your ex-girlfriend.
I go on Indeed.com and I look for different people with different problems, Somebody's got to do the dirty work.
No, boy, that's me. Saul Bigman. Yeah. That sounds like a Humphrey Bogart character, Saul Bigman.
Instead,
Richard.
You just know what's gonna be though. You would go there, and then you would sit in your car, and be like, "Dude, what the fuck am I doing?" And then you'd have like a camera, and be like, "Well, God, she might try to steal this camera from me," and so on like that. Like, you know what I mean? And like, am I too sure? Like, the description said she was blonde with curly hair. I mean, that could be anybody.
Well, to be fair, we're not going off like the one picture the dude hands you of his wedding photo or the thing they took on wedding picture day like 6 years ago. You got like fucking Facebook and Instagram. Like, yeah, that's fucking her.
Yeah, no, I guess that's true.
She doesn't have the cat ears in this one. I'm still pretty sure that's her though. She doesn't have the big eye filter, so more likely probably her.
Yeah, exactly. But it was actually probably this day and age, being like a private investigator has got to be kind of like much easier. You think about it, with the internet coming into play, like that makes their job like go by a whole lot quicker.
Where you hear like reporters and journalists they complain about like bloggers, like it's not real fucking journalism, it's not real fucking news, and then you get like the same thing coming in with private investigators. That's probably why you're seeing something for like, who wants to follow my girlfriend around for $200? Think she's fucking sucking some dude's cock. It's not mine.
Well, and, granted, there always is that, like the police officers can only do so much in life. I think that's where the private investigator comes in. It comes to handle all the cases that they don't have time for. There's where the private investigator is, to come in and do that kind of work. So there's always a need. And probably this day and age with kind of like Uber, I bet you private investigating is going to even come back in, full swing. Because that's like the whole Uber thing. Is like, I don't want to deal with the cab companies anymore. I don't like fucking Saul and Hajim and all these guys. I want a good old-fashioned American who's trying to go to college to drive me around. Can I trust him? Well, I don't know, but is he licensed? No. I mean, he's got a California driver's license, so, I mean, yeah, licensed enough.
Well, even like Lyft and Uber, even those, I mean, it's because where I'm live, but there you can get like, it's still like a mixing pot. You don't know who you're gonna get. You can get
that's like me.
You can get a dude who works like tech support for like a tech company, or you can get some dude who moved here 2 months ago from Syria. You never know what you're gonna fucking get. It's a big hodgepodge. It's just kind of like anybody can do it, and I think it's one of those things like it just became. Because whenever I'll say this, like getting in a cab, took a cab a few times since I've been here. Cab is, even though it's one of those things. You're getting one of two things when you get a cab. You're either getting some ass. I mean, when I get into a cab, I'm not looking to make best friends or anything. But you're getting a guy who's like, oh, I've been doing this for years. Oh yeah, I can tell you. Oh, this one time, he just has all these interesting stories you just want to talk to. Or he's some dude who's like, where are you going? Okay, doesn't talk at all. Like every day going, fine. And then, like, you get there just like, Jesus Christ, $28, So where Lyft and Uber, those are both, I don't know, drivers can be either way. No, you don't know what you're getting, but they're not as expensive. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's just because they don't have to pay the insurance for having the cab employee. They don't have to pay that. That's what like those companies skip out on, is they don't have to pay all find the loopholes to get around all the union stuff and all all that kind of crap. It's like, oh well, here we go. Like, since they're like hired freelance contractors, we don't have to pay any of these benefits, so we can charge less to people, and we're not using no company vehicle. We're just literally running software. That's all we have to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's kind of how that is. Anyway, time for a late introduction. I'm Ryan Dunigan.
And I'm Spencer Scott Holmes. Welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast, the place where we solve mysteries. No, not really.
I don't know. I think that would be an interesting thing, though, just because, like, I think it wouldn't surprise me if somebody already did, like, kind of like an ironic, like, modern, like, treat it like a 1930s noir film, but he's all like, I was browsing her Skype and Instagram account, or, whatever. Just, like, I traced her IP address right to, and then you get down to, like, he's, like, he has, like, his Uber driver he always calls, because there'll always be that one cab driver. Cabbie. It's like, Matzi's been doing this for years. If there's one man I can go, Matzi drives the best, and he drives the places no one else does. All you gotta do is just slip him a little extra, and he'll do whatever you want. Where this is just like, Bryce.
Hey, Matzi, you said you always wanted an iWatch, right? Here you go.
No, it's like Bryce, who drives a Honda Civic, whatever.
Yeah.
Works as a part-time barista at Starbucks.
And yeah, he did get suspended from school back in the day for bringing in beers in his backpacks, but that's the kind of guy I can trust, you know what I mean? Guy a little bit reckless. Guy living on the edge, You
need that for this kind of life. It looks as if she tagged herself at dropped a pin in the most recent location of the party she was at last night.
Huh. I guess I'll be there.
Wait, that must be way easier being a private investigator. I mean,
well, that's what I mean. Like, you could people practically like give you the fucking keys to their like house nowadays. When you think about it, if you need to find some information.
That's why I still don't have add your phone number to Facebook. No.
Yeah, exactly. Because if I have to have that private investigation, whereas be like, oh, Ryan Dunigan's been missing again. I guess it's time to go investigate. You know what I mean? You would like, no. If I want a John Connor disappear, I want a John Connor disappear out of here.
John Connor disappear as in are you talking like Terminator 3?
Well, that John Connor literally didn't get anything like that. He didn't sign up for any chat roulette or anything.
He said John Connor disappeared because there's the part where he's like, I live on the road, just short jobs.
That's
always don't know what I'm running from. Drops the bottle into the water. Then all of a sudden it hits a robotic skull, and then flash forward.
Well, that's totally what it was. Like, my mom just told me to keep running. Don't trust the government. Don't trust anyone. Don't get an education. I'm John Connor. Savior of the human future.
You don't need smarts when you got a gun.
No. She said books were for dummies. Get a gun. That's a man's education. Kill a robot.
Sarah Connor. It's a man's education. No, what was I gonna say regarding something regarding private investigators, I think. Fuck. That was in my head. It'll come back to me later. Alright, yeah.
Well, it all leads into the greatness of what these last couple weeks have been, which really this year has been one of the most amazing years for anybody who owns a console system and loves classic RPGs. They've just been giving us great things over and over, which is funny because it's they barely ever give you anything in the last 15 years, and all of a sudden it finally comes around. But that Pokemon Let's Go game, it's just so magical. And I think it's just one of those ones for any 90s gamer, any hardcore person that played, Pokemon back in the olden days, it is literally the game that we've always wanted since the N64 days. And it took a long time, but it finally came out.
I'll say this. Just technological advancements and inhabilitations in some way. I miss being able to just calling. I think that the game they got keen to people being naming your rival, dickhead or some shit like that. Because for whatever reason, here's the thing. I think because it registered, I literally named my rival in that game Cockmunch. But it would not. I was gonna name my Pikachu Sir Psycho Sexy from the Red Hot Chili Pepper song. But it's just like, can't do that. Like, are you fucking serious? I just named this dude Cockmunch. I can't call this guy Sir Psycho Sexy. But I guess they're thinking, well, maybe he's a chicken. Maybe that's what he's talking about. I don't know. So it's one of those things like, really? We're still, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was the thing. That's how much freedom was in the olden days. You could name them anything you want. Though I will kind of say, it's like, I know the last couple Pokemon games have been doing it, where like instead of having a rival, you more just have like, hey, it's like your best annoying friend that always shows up when you don't want him to. I actually personally rather have like the old-fashioned 90s. I think because nowadays you can't make fun of people and things like that anymore. So instead, in the 90s, it's more like, hey, what's up, Cockmunch? Yeah, you fucking suck at catching Pokemon. Smell you later. You're fucking gay. 90s gay, that is.
That's kind of the way it works. And that's the thing, because like I think they realize how many kids like this thing. So they're trying, and also parents like Pokemon now too. So they probably like the idea of like, oh, we want to promote good sportsmanship rather than a bully. So I think that's kind of the whole thing about that.
Well, that's been there. It's been there for a couple of them. I don't know if it appeared in Black and White, but I know it was there since like X and Y.
It's in Black and White.
Is it in that one too?
There, Black and White is when I first noticed it, because you have these two rivals. You have the dude who, I never finished Black, but I enjoyed what I played of it. I gotta finish it at some point. You have the dude who's your rival, who picks the one that's stronger than you, and then then there's the girl who's like kind of just picks the weaker one, and she's kind of the fuck up. So. And then I guess in Sun and Moon, I never played Sun and Moon, but you told me in that one, you got the guy who's just kind of like the dumbass, and apparently the whole thing about that is you're meant to be the rival. You're meant to be the strong one that's meant to actually be kind of the Ash-like character.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But you're like, really? The game expects me to relate to this dumb fuck?
Well, it's like it's Sun and Moon, if I remember correctly, you had like the fat Hawaiian guy who's like, oh, I'm gonna go find something to eat, everyone. I tried to catch this, surfing Chansey, and it looked like a lot of work. Look, there was exercise involved. Well, I'm just gonna go down to the store, guys. And they're serving up all kinds of good rice patties.
They got those like purple mashed potatoes we got over here in Hawaii. The one thing I'll eat out of the ground.
Yeah, I'll go eat. So there's that, and then and then there was like I can't remember if there was a girl or a guy, because I don't know if it ever changes depending on if you choose a girl or a guy in there. But then there was the other one, which was kind of a little bit more, but they make them like playful rivals. Like, hey man, let's see who's the best. It's like, it's kind of like, I like the idea. I just like the idea of having the fucking dick. It's like, fuck that guy. Oh god, that guy's ahead of me again. Like, fuck that. I think we need a little bit more competitional stuff like that in life, where there just is that asshole guy that you got to deal with and get it over with. You know what I mean? Like, because even in the Pokemon like Let's Go ones, like that one right there reminds me more. It's like that reminds me of like the shitty next door neighbor kid. You're like, oh fuck, he's coming over to hang out again. Like, he just runs into your room without even fucking knocking. You know what I mean? Like, and just comes barging in like we've been best friends our whole lives. It's like, no, I fucking hate you. I know you live next door, but I've never liked you.
You're like one of three houses out of these 4 houses in this whole fucking town, but still, I hate you.
Yeah.
Well, there's also that whole thing about like, because the rival, I liked hating Gary. I really liked hating Gary. Yep. Gary made, or Blue, whatever you prefer. I really just made it. He made me want to just fucking annihilate him. And this guy, it's like, I feel like it's kind of, this is going to seem kind of random example, but I feel it's kind of like the Team 4-Star Dragon Ball Goku Vegeta thing, how Vegeta's always like, Kakarot, I will defeat you. Oh, well, I hope you give it your best shot. Fuck you. That whole kind of, it's like Vegeta just hates Goku so much, but Goku's like, he's my best friend. Like, he just, no, even like when Goku's beating him, he says like, okay, Vegeta, that was a good job. Like, I can't he can't like fucking break him. And I feel kind of like this because this guy like, all right, man, let's battle. Like I'm gonna straight up fucking murder you, dude. And then we do this like, oh boy, your guys sure are strong. It's like, fuck you. I want you to fucking hate me. Yeah, why are you following me around? I fucking hate you. If you're gonna follow me around, at least let's be fucking. Why the fuck? I want this guy to hate. I hate this guy, so I want him to hate me. It's one of those kind of things.
I don't know what it is. It makes it almost even worse.
I feel like Vegeta in like Dragon Ball Team 4-Star. That's what I feel like.
Well, it's one of those ones. Like it sounds weird. It's like I almost feel like I hate this guy almost more than I hate like the old-fashioned Gary Ash combination. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird. It's like I got some respect for Gary. You know, he's an asshole, but I got more respect for him. You, I don't know about you.
Gary. Well, I guess because Gary, it was one of those things. Gary, for whatever reason, maybe because I was newer to the game, Gary was harder to beat. This dude is so fucking easy to beat. Now, I'll be honest. Let's Go so far. From what I'm only 4 badges in. I just got done with the saving that corporation from Team Rocket. So I'm not as far as you. I know you beat the game recently. But the whole thing with it is, like, that guy, he's just so easy to beat. And Gary, maybe it's because I remember him being a little harder. I remember that. But at the exact same time, going back, knowing what I got to do in order to beat him, maybe that plays a factor in it too. But at least he had this thing that was just so easy to hate, where this dude just like, hey man, let's do this together. Let's be friends. Like, no, dude, fuck up. We're all right. We both got 4 or 5 badges by this point. You still only have 3 guys in your fucking team.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
What kind of fuck up are you, dude? Jesus Christ.
Well, it's one of those ones too, and I think this is like with Pokemon even back in the day, like this is how Pokemon's, I think, difficulty was meant to work, but like it's kind of, I think everybody kind of seems to sort of break it by doing one thing, is that you're supposed to spread your, like, by having the 6 party members, I feel like you're supposed to equally spread out your experience throughout these members, and by doing that would make you about equal to like the levels, if me, you know, just a couple levels higher than all the trainers around you. But instead, what mostly everybody does is you just train 1 or 2 Pokemon up all the way, so that these 1 or 2 Pokemon are like always like 10 levels above everything else the whole way through, and it's almost like, oh, well, that wasn't how we designed it at Game Freak. It's like, well, yeah, but it's fucking work to switch Pokemon. Like, I'm just gonna, Pikachu's here, like, he's just gonna keep going.
Your starter, I can't speak for the guys who have Eevee, but Pikachu, he's just a little fucking murder machine in this game. He is just, like, nearly unfucking unstoppable, just about.
Well, what they do, like, what makes the Pikachu pretty much, like, work really well in this game is the fact, because they give him, like, a move, like, whenever you're close to, like, a new gym leader, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm Mr. Lion Tamer. Here, you know, this Pikachu, like, let's give him a move that's gonna make you defeat, like, anybody else other than electricity Pokemon, you know what I mean? Like, come on, let's do it. And it's like, at first he gives you, like, double kick, and you're like, oh, I can use double kick against, you know, Brock. And then it's like, next thing you know, it's like there's one they give you, like, it's called, like, Floaty Fall. I don't know, they got, like, stupid fucking names, but it's like, I
got Zip Zap. I got Zippy Zap.
Yeah, you get Zippy Zap, which that's a good one, but you get Floaty Fall, and it's like, oh, shit, then now I can just totally go and, like, go to Erica's place and kill her plant Pokemon, because, you know, now I got a flying attack. So the thing is, and same with, like, when you get to, like, Fuchsia City and everything like that, too, it's like, oh, crap, now I got, like, an attack for every single type of Pokemon just about. So my whole goal was, like, when I kind of play, I'm like, shit, I just want to test out if I can beat every single gym leader in the entire Elite Four of Pikachu and Pikachu only. And that's what I did. Just because I was like, I just wanted to test how strong this Pikachu is.
I just kind of, what I do, I haven't really even used him that much unless it was Misty. When it came to the gyms, I used. I even think about trying double kick on Brock. I had a Butterfree, and I found that random Bulbasaur and Viridian, trained them both up, went to fight Brock, and I Oddish too. And I felt so bad because I know it's just data. I know it's just little. I know at the end of the day they're just numbers. But I have this Oddish. There's a straight up little murder machine. And that was one of those things about this game, because they throw certain characters in other spots, like, oh, this character's here, I didn't know that. And there are certain areas where you can catch the starters if you wait around long enough. Like, you can catch a Bulbasaur and Viridian right by the entrance of Mount Moon. You can catch a Charmander, and then up in where you go to Bill's place, you can catch, like, a Squirtle if you kind of wait around the bushes around there long enough. But anyway,
You could also
So
in the forest you could catch the Bulbasaurs right off the bat too.
yeah, Viridian Force.
Oh yeah, Viridian Forest. I thought you said by Mount Moon.
Oh no, that's the Charmander.
Oh, okay.
But no, so I missed that one, but I still ended up catching. You can still get them by the spots you get them in Yellow, and we're talking as if everyone listening's already played these games before. But just to get back to this part, I'll say this, because I got an Oddish, and that thing just straight up fucking murdered Brock's team, and I felt kind of bad because this thing just like, this guy is just fucking wrecking shop. And then I get to the entrance of Mount Moon. There's a guy who's like sells the Magikarp. I'm like, well, Gyarados is one of my favorite guys. I got to level this up. I'm used to just putting Gyarados in front of the team and letting Magikarp go in front of the team. By the time I get out of this cave, he's a fucking Gyarados or whatever. So I'm like, well, only got room for sorry, Oddish, gotta put you right over here. And then I can just imagine, just within the game, just what the fuck? What the fuck? I got you all the way here. We did all this shit. I killed how many people for you, and you're putting me in the fucking box for that thing? Magikarp. Shut the fuck up! Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? I could just imagine that whole conversation. Of course, it'd be in subtitles.
Yeah, but still, it'd be there, totally. No, that's
like, well, I got the Bulbasaur now. That thing is way fucking weaker than me! Yeah. I'm 5 levels fucking higher! Like, hey, yeah, man, it's okay. Just gotta go in your box. Yeah, Bulbasaur looks cooler than you, and I like Gyarados, so shut the fuck up. Go in your box.
I know. Well, the one thing about Pokemon, it's always kind of like, I feel like whatever Pokemon you kind of get right off the bat, it's almost like you're sort of kind of stuck using, because it always feels like if you get those Pokemon later on, even if you like them more, but it's like, you pick them up and they're like level 40, and it sounds like it's good level 40. It's like they're not the same as like your Pokemon that you've trained up to level 40. It's that kind of weird thing. That's why I always thought like a cool feature in Pokemon would almost be if when you started off, you didn't know what you were going to get for your starter Pokemon. You know what I mean? It was just totally random. Like, you know what I mean? You just got something. Because who knows, like, it'd be interesting to train, like, one of those, like, Pokemon that you normally probably would never take. Like, like, think if you had, like, a Mankey or something, you just took that the full distance. Like, you probably would learn moves that you're like, whoa, I didn't even know he did this or that. Or, like, in my party, I had, like, a Marowak in there, and I didn't realize how many weird TMs you could teach Marowak. You could teach Marowak, like, any type of, like, moves. He could learn fire moves, electric moves. He could use, and maybe not plant moves, but he could learn, like ice moves and so on. It was, like, ridiculous.
I'll say this, going back, because when we talk about, like, playing Pokemon and playing games, there's this period in the game where I was one of those guys who totally felt like, I don't know, man, Pokemon's kind of lame now. I kind of, like, fell into the peer pressure, and then it kind of became one of these things I kind of came back to later. And, like, I never really got into the show or anything, but the video games still stand out. The video games are still fun. And especially Red and Blue are still really fun games. So it's one of those in Yellow, and even the new ones are fun too from what I've played of them. So going back, this is kind of like this and Stick of Truth. I felt bad. We were all like talking about like Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm like, this has to take a break. I gotta relive my childhood and then play South Park Stick of Truth, which is a game I've been meaning to get for a while.
Well, it's funny how it is, because it's like Red Dead comes out, it's like, here's this massive game. What could stop Red Dead from, being it's like, oh shit, Nintendo's got a fucking remake of Pokemon Yellow? Out of the way, Red Dead. It was not even like a hard choice. It wasn't like, because like some choices you're like, ooh, I really want to play that game, but ooh, I really gotta finish this one. That was like one of those ones like, nope, Pokemon.
Well, I think it's
Red Dead's a very nice game, but it ain't no Pokemon.
Well, I think the thing about Red Dead, it's not even that it's like a bad game. I've talked to some friends who don't like it or whatever, and I like the game. It's fun, but it's one of those things where there's too much upkeep. There's too much you got to keep track of. I gotta feed the whole fucking camp. I gotta do this.
You don't really have to do any of that, though. That's the thing. It's like it makes you.
You don't have to.
You feel like you kind of have to, but I realized in that game that like only upkeep I gotta do is number 1 myself. Fuck everybody else.
And the horse. You gotta make sure you're on good terms with your horse, all that.
If I would have designed Red Dead, you should be able to go to your camp and just murder everybody in their sleep, but that's my Red Dead. Yeah. My Red Dead is ultimate freedom, but...
Well, there's also like, oh, you gotta make sure your gun doesn't wear down, you gotta like update your gun every so often, which doesn't take a whole lot of work, but all these small things build up, and there's crafting and all that kind of shit. So... after a while,
there's that wheel that's just way too big of like items.
Yeah. So it's not one of those things where it's the end of the world or anything, or it's not a bad game. It's a little. I'm just like, you know what? I want something simple. I can just plug in and play, kind of like the original Red Dead, where I'm like, oh, this Pokemon game, I know this, and it's kind of a little updated. There's a few little surprises in there. Kind of takes you back to my childhood in a good way. So yeah, I'm playing that, but
Yeah, that Pokemon game, though, is just so... Oh, my gosh. I just think it's so amazing. And even really, like... Because I know the thing that was throwing people off, and I mean, it threw me off, too, when I first saw it, was like, when they're like, oh, it's going to be like Pokemon Go, and it was kind of like, ooh...
That same thing. There's actually me on the podcast saying, I don't know about this game, and then hearing more about it and actually playing, like, oh, no, it's not so bad. I mean, the emotions are a little off, but, I mean... Still, it's fun.
Well, I think the thing, too, is that when they first kind of released it, they should have been a lot more clear, I think, on what it was. That, like, whoa, the only thing that's different is the catching. I think because everybody heard the Pokemon Go thing, and then, like, somebody took the no battles and just ran with it. So I think everybody's like, oh, you don't even fight? That's stupid. And I think that, like, pretty much almost felt like a 90s rumor that just kind of, like, spread like wildfire sort of went.
Like Mew under the truck.
Yeah, exactly. And then next thing you know, because I didn't think there was battles and stuff in it at first. I was like, well, that's stupid and so on. And then I remember I saw like a new trailer, like Nintendo sent me an email, and I was like, oh my god, everything's the same. The Pokemon catching's different. And I'll have to say this, I actually think the Pokemon catching style is actually better than the original Pokemon thing. Because here's the thing. This is always the downfall of catching Pokemon. At first, it's not a big deal, but like when you get farther in the game and your Pokemon start to get leveled up, and then you go back and like, oh, I need to go back and get that Sandshrew. And then you realize you're like, crap, all my Pokemon are way too strong to go, like, weaken him down. So either I have to go pull a Pokemon out of my box that's around his level. But, you know, and it's just kind of a pain in the ass. Like, I think it's kind of nice on this one. It's like, no, the Pokemon catching system's actually kind of different. You don't battle or anything like that. You just focus on the catching part. So when you need to go back and catch any Pokemon you missed, it's not a big deal. And it almost slightly makes catching Pokemon a little bit more fun. Because after a while in Pokemon, it seems like unless you really want the Pokemon, you're not always really catching them. Because it's just, okay, I guess I could catch it or not. I mean, in Sun and Moon, they add that ability where, like, it gives you experience when you catch Pokemon, so it almost made it a little bit more worthwhile to catch them, which I thought was awesome. But, you know, in all the previous ones before that, it's like, I was like, why am I catching them? You know what I mean? Like, unless I'm going to use them, there's not really a reason to catch them.
Yeah, well, this one, it's also... You get more experience catching them, like you said in the newer ones, but on top of that, it splits among everybody. And it does this thing where it takes attributes to them. And the game says, okay, well, tell you what, go on and send me these Pokemon over to my lab, and I'm going to send you some candies back. Really, well, let's be honest. What Professor Oak is doing is you're sending some Pokemon back to his lab, he's grinding them down, and you're feeding them to your new Pokemon. To your old Pokemon. That's what you're doing. Exactly. This is like Soil and Green right here, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't know what else is going on with Professor Oak there. He's got some type of lab set up doing some kind of shady work.
I have not been back to his lab since I left Pallet Town, but if I went back, I guarantee you there is nothing in there. He's still just him, one Pokeball on the counter, and like a lab assistant in the corner looking at a fucking chart.
He's got 3 lab assistants in there, actually.
Oh, he's moving on up in the world.
I went back there because you have to go back to him at some point because he has like another like thing that gets the story going farther on later on. It's like, what the heck? It's like, oh, okay, I have to go talk to Professor Oak. Okay, whatever.
I'm expecting something big or different because they're already bringing in extra characters. There's that dude with blue hair. I think his name is Archer or Alan or something like that.
Who?
And he comes in. Whenever you go up against Team Rocket, there's some dude with blue hair who's like Giovanni's right-hand man who you fight a couple of times. So I'm assuming, and then like Gary is already kind of like they're establishing this thing takes place as it's sort of like a Force Awakens for Pokemon to an extent because it's moving by the same beats and you're moving by the same. Essentially, it's kind of a remake, but that still takes place afterwards. It's just a new character in the place of that, you know. Because even
it's almost like
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, it reminds me a lot like that. There was that amazing Zelda game that came out for 3DS, A Link Between Worlds, that nobody fucking really played, it seemed like. But that game was so awesome. But it was that game was like the mix of like, it was sort of a remake of Zelda 3, but also a sequel all at the same time. And that's sort of how Pokemon Go is. Though I'll say Pokemon Go is even more of like, it's realistically just like a remake. It just feels like your story just happens to take place like a year after like Ash and Gary's, pretty much. That's how I kind of look at it.
Is it only a year after?
Well, no, it's a year. It just kind of feels like it. I mean, maybe it's 5 years or something, but...
Well, there's certain characters from other games that pop in, because once you leave this SS Anne or whatever, there's a character I've never seen before, but she stands out in some weird way. So I'm assuming she's a character from a newer game. She looks like she looks kind of stoned, and she
there was that
she's
part.
covered in paint.
That part never came back at all either, too. Like in the rest of the game.
I'm expecting to come back in some way, because I'm guessing that's a character from another game. Because she says, "Oh, I just got back from Aloha or whatever," which is, I know, the place from Sun and Moon.
And maybe she was in that one. It's just been a couple years since I played that, so I don't know if I remember exactly. But yeah, it does have a little bit of like that kind of into it. But for the most part, it still is a traditional, red and blue. Or I think the way they kind of look at it is because red and blue happened, and then yellow kind of came afterwards. So they treat it like, well, yellow comes a little bit afterwards. So it's kind of an interesting way to go about it, or sort of like how Black and White 2 is.
Well, it was kind of funny because not gonna lie, getting this game kind of put me in a big Pokemon mood, because I saw the trailer for Detective Pikachu, and I'm like, that actually looks pretty good. I mean, I'm not used to him talking and all that, but regardless of that, it still looks pretty good. And then we were actually just happy to be walking by GameStop, and I'm like, I'm like, I got a little extra money in my pocket. Fuck it, I'll get Let's Go. I'll get Let's Go. Fuck it. And then I just was like, put in this huge fucking mood to kind of relive part of my childhood. Like, you know what? I'm going to look up some old episodes. I'm like, yeah, this part don't hold up. All right.
I still think the show, the show is what it is. I mean, it's not like one of those ones where it's like going to change anybody's mind, but like it still takes me back to like 1998, like no matter what. So by that standard, I always enjoy it. Like I actually went back because we were talking for a week ago or something about like the comic books. I'm like, God, I got to pull those comic books out. I have them all there except for like the last section of them. Because of course it was another one of those incidents where a comic book store closed and there you goes. And that's just how it was in the 90s. But I actually pulled out the old Pokemon manga comics that came out like in 1998 to 99. And I was rereading those again. Those ones actually, I think, hold up pretty darn well. Like I had a good time the whole way through. And I think it's just like a little bit more like solid story of like than like the anime sort of is, Ash is he's still like your underdog kind of fuck up guy, but like he's not so much like he just like trips over his own dick into like winning every award. It's like, no, he still has to fight, he still catches, he still does that. He just is, the poor guy who doesn't like to learn and wants to get out of school.
Ash is the living embodiment of the participation trophy, because he always just kind of stumbles into winning, or he's about to lose the match, but then he did something nice, like, oh, well, let me get the door for you. Oh, you have compassion. Here's a fucking badge. So it always kind of come out in that way. So I remember they even acknowledged that when he got to the Johto League, not the Johto, Kanto, when he got to the Kanto League, they even acknowledged that. Well, dude, when you think about it, you didn't win a lot of your badges. A lot of your badges you kind of just got through being nice and helping him stop Team Rocket, or helping like a Clefairy learn how to fucking sing or whatever the fuck. And like, oh, I guess you're right. Let's go to the gold and silver plus shit now. Like, what? Okay.
Let's get away from these people. They know my secret.
Well, I remember because it was once they got to gold and silver, that's where I kind of jumped off board. And I think it was also like I realized, because what got me into it in the first place was the show, and that's where I realized, oh, he's never gonna achieve anything. They're just gonna do this as these games come out. And then on top of that, I was also like, well, aside from that, also peer pressure, and kids like, dude, Pokemon's fucking stupid. So out of that, I mean, the show, I was losing interest in the show, and so just also peer pressure. Like I stopped playing the game because of that. But I think if I actually still played the game there, I still would be kind of a fan to an extent for a while, because the games are fun.
Well, because we mentioned it before, we call it the 5 dark years, but it was pretty much about when 2000 hit. It was like all of a sudden you couldn't be into Pokemon anymore. Maybe not exactly at 2000, probably more like later days 2000, but it was one of those ones where like all of a sudden people were like, yeah. It was like almost like you got into middle school and Pokemon was just not cool anymore. If you played Pokemon, you were probably the kid sitting in the fucking corner with sweatpants on and glasses with no fucking friends. And it was just kind of like, I don't want to be that kid. I guess I'll hide the Pokemon, like, hide it like fucking like contraband, And there was like 5 years where it was just almost like you weren't even allowed to bring up Pokemon that you like Pokemon. Then I just remember like when high school came around and like just a couple of years into high school, it was all of a sudden there's just like one kid shows up with a Pokemon playing Game Boy, just be like, fuck it, man. You know what? I love Pokemon. I ain't fucking stopping. I'm gonna be who I am. And then next thing you know, without anybody really saying anything, more Game Boys just started showing up, and everybody came in. Some people had their Game Boy Advances. Some people had their SPs. Some people were rocking the old, like, big old brick, green and black Game Boy screens. Link cables, shit. Then, like, the little, like, wireless one came out for Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, and Pokemon came back, like, in a big old bad way. And then from that point on, it's like, ever since then, it's like, okay, you can just pretty much walk around town with a Pokemon shirt on, and unless, you see, like, some, like, Korean War veteran there, like, generally most people aren't going to be too confused by it anymore.
Korean War veteran?
I'd say World War II veteran, but we're kind of past those days now, sadly.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
You
think about it, like, nowadays, I mean, like, the chance if you run into a World War II vet's pretty slim. It's so weird how that is, but...
Korean War. Yeah, I guess a Korean War.
I'm going next one down. I could say Vietnam, but,
They're the ones that never really get any, like, yeah, we did that.
Yeah, they don't get enough recognition.
What happened? I don't remember, really.
Obviously, nothing got settled, because we still have a problem with Korea now.
Well,
yeah, that's because the Demis pulled out too soon. Let me tell you, I was stacking bodies 10 feet tall. And then next thing you know, I get a letter saying, you got to go back to America.
I was almost done with my body fort. What the fuck are you talking about?
Just like Clint Eastwood's character from like Gran Torino. He's just like crawling around this fort of just like dead Koreans. Just the largest
just all mangled. Like, look, this... Look, there's a window right here. See that?
I can lay my gun right here, and I'm just gonna leave some traps out for him, and bring him on in.
Take my necklace off, hang it on this guy's jaw. That's like the idea of a whole fort made out of bodies. He's just like running around it like it's a bunch of cardboard boxes.
And I like him just crawling through it too, like, because that's always how it was when you were a kid. You like crawl and like weave through and have doors and stuff. And you always had to have the TV underneath it somehow, some way. The fort was always connected to the TV. I remember that was like a very must.
Priorities.
Yeah. But yeah, after those 5 dark years, Pokemon just, came back, and it's like, nowadays it's like, whenever there's a new Pokemon game, I've always just gotten them. I don't miss out on them, because the experience is always amazing, and even with the new ones too, like, it's all like the little things they add into it. People always want to go, oh, it's the same game over and over again. I'm like, well, yeah, it's an RPG where you collect Pokemon. Of course, it's the same game, but it's all the small stuff. It's all the little things that change. That, like, that's what I kind of like about it, and that's what you got to kind of look forward to in games. It doesn't have that feeling where how some games you see like on PlayStation and Xbox literally feel like kind of the exact same game over and over again with just slight differences. Like Pokemon still, I mean, like, yeah, it looks like Pokemon and so on, but it gives you that magic feeling every single time you play it. And it never has that, like, been here, done that feel. It always feels, there's something special about it. It just takes you back.
Well, we didn't even talk about it really so much on the show, but the Detective Pikachu trailer, if you're going on that just for a second, for the movie, I never played the game. I think the game is somewhat of a point-and-click kind of adventure type of situation. I think that's what the game is. Looking at the trailer for the movie, what I kind of like going off of that, because it still feels like Pokemon, but rather than doing the thing where I feel like people try to make excuses or try to come up with reasons why certain things are, that one just embraces the ridiculousness, but actually has a lot of character and actually looks funny, because the characters actually look like the characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I kind of liked, is that they didn't wasn't like, oh, I guess that's supposed to be a Venusaur. I don't know what it is. It looks kind of like a dog, but
you can all tell who's supposed to be who. And the writing, I mean, granted, maybe it's just Ryan Reynolds has all the good jokes. Who knows? We got to wait till the movie comes out because it's just the trailer. But it sounds like it's clever and it's funny, but it's one of those things where sometimes that's kind of the way to go on these sort of things, where just embrace the ridiculousness rather than try to create excuses for, oh, well, because you think about some of these characters. How are you going to make sense of some of these characters? How are you going to make, sense of a character that looks like a fucking sandcastle? How are you going to make sense out of a character that is like Jigglypuff? How are you going to make that thing look realistic? So the idea of just no, it's not realistic. It is cartoony. It is weird. We could just actually make it funny and well written, kind of like a Scott Pilgrim kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Well, almost like if you that would be in the long run. I think it would be kind of the way to go, is to give it just a very if you want to do traditional Pokemon storytelling, is to give it just a very fantasy type feel. Like, I think that's the best way. Like, don't try to make it look realistic, because that probably is just not the way to do it. Do it fantasy style instead, and just be like, everybody just accepts this is what these characters look like. Nobody has to. You don't have to have that part where like, oh, why are you all pink and fuzzy? Blah 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 blah. No. Don't have any of those kind of moments. Just like literally be like, no, this is our world. This is how it is. Everybody's used to it. You know what I mean? And just go with it. I mean, I know that's kind of tough. We're not at that point yet. Because the thing about Pokemon, even though Pokemon's like 20 years old, and it's kind of weird to think of it like that, it's still not old enough yet that it's kind of like, oh shit, we can finally like really like go to town on it. We still need that kind of like initiation, and I think Detective Pikachu might be the nice initiation.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'll be honest, it was me on the show saying, I mean, I'll check the movie out, but that seems like a weird starting point. Now I totally get why they started there. I mean, who knows? Maybe the movie's going to suck. I think it looks good. Well, hopefully it is good. But I know when I first heard that was the first movie they're starting off on, like, that's a weird choice. But now I'm kind of sort of seeing why they did it. That being said, though, I think that this is kind of interesting because you had suddenly adults who never gave a fuck about, I mean, we're adults, I guess, but people older than us who never gave a fuck about it, who got into the game because of the smartphone, because of the Let's Go.
Well, yeah, because that was always the weird thing is you'd meet some people be like, oh shit, you're 40 years old and you're playing Pokemon Go? Like, get the fuck out.
And they don't even know the characters. They're just trying to catch them. Like, oh, okay, this one, I don't got that one, let me play it. And they just got into the game that way. And then, you know, their kid or whoever likes it, so that's probably immediately a door opening for like, oh, Ryan Reynolds, he voiced Deadpool, that movie was kind of funny, you know, so that's already kind of a door open, so people might be willing to check this movie out. And then you think about like, some of our friends have kids now, chances are they're showing them Generation 1, so...
Well, that's literally what Pokemon like Let's Go kind of reminded me of. It was almost meant for like people of our generation to be like, it was supposed to be like a passing on moment. Like, here you go, let me introduce you to Pokemon with, you know, bright new Switch graphics, because I know you look at me like a dinosaur when I pull out a Game Boy. But here's bright new graphics, but this is the story I grew up. This is what it was like in the 90s, you know? When you could still say fag freely and it was okay. And you know what? Everybody liked you because, you know what? You were a good person deep down inside, and that's all that mattered, damn it!
Even though you're yelling it at the kid with the rolly backpack.
Yeah, well, he was a fag. He was wearing a rolly backpack. We went over there, we kicked it out from underneath him to prove our point.
That was the thing. The kid with the rolly backpack, like, there was that show Big Mouth, like, that's so true. There's the part where he's like, sit next to anybody on the bus. He goes, like, not the kid with the rolly backpack. He can't read social cues. There's something always off about the kid with the rolly backpack.
The rolly backpacks, at least in the late '90s, was just like when that came out. It was just like that just showed weakness.
You're not going to the airport.
Well, if you're
going to the airport,
if you're an adult, nobody gives a fuck. You know what I mean? But when you're a kid and you're in primal nature, and somebody brings a rolly backpack, that's like the first sign of weakness. Like, what? He can't carry his own bag? All of us carry our own bag. What's his excuse, you know? Or it's like, oh, his parents can afford him a rolly backpack because, you know, when they're new, they're probably fucking expensive. Like, who does he think he is? Why does he think he's so special? Oh. You know, it's just like a Tim Allen like children, all raised off fucking Home Improvement shit,
pounding their chest and shit.
You
like,
know?
oh, you think you're special than me? You think you're better than me because you have a rolly backpack? Because you don't live in a fucking motorhome? You think you're fucking better than me because of the rolly backpack?
So exactly.
Listen, high roller. That's what I fucking think about that backpack. That's pretty much what it was like. Hello? Still there?
Yeah, exactly, you know. Well, I remember the other thing, too, is, like, what happened is people come by and you'd kick the backpack out from underneath them so it'd spin around, then they'd be dragging their backpack because they couldn't roll it now because it's on the opposite side. The only way that you could do it and get a little bit more respect is if you pushed it like a lawnmower, because then you're being kind of clever and funny. And then you could run into people with it.
Or you would just be, like, sliding, or you'd be the kid with the rolly backpack was never rebellious. But I guess you felt like sliding that thing, like riding like a skateboard down a hill or some shit.
Yeah, that'd be thinking way outside. That'd be more what somebody who stole the rolly backpack would do with it.
I was gonna say, there's once remember somebody like rolling a backpack, and there's like this is back in high school. There's that big hill, and this one kid just like snatched him, like, hey, that's my backpack! And then he just jumped on the backpack, rolled, like slid down, just fucking. The backpack was still one piece, but the handlebar kind of broke off and got a bunch of scraps. He's like, woo! It's like, that's my fucking backpack! You not gonna lie, I felt a little bad for the
Code
rolling
Red
kid.
while doing it mid slide.
Pouring in his mouth. After that, he went to go ram heads with a fucking bull.
Exactly.
Or goat or whatever the fuck it was.
Like, you broke my backpack. He's like, whatever. Better looking than my backpack. What, you think better than me? No, I don't think I am. Yeah, go back to the fucking library, you fucking nerd.
Meanwhile, I'll be trying to save up so I can go buy a fucking, like, quad. Go do a backflip and trying to imitate that scene from fucking Half Past... No, wasn't Half Past Dead? No, Cradle to the Grave.
Oh, yeah, Cradle to the Grave. Yeah, exactly. Like one of those type of things, something like that. But, God, that really backpack...
Half Past Dead's another one, though.
That really backpack ties into, like, pretty much, like, the 5 Dark Years. It's weird. Like, I almost feel like that backpack came out, and that was, like, part of, like, it was almost like you couldn't play Pokemon, so you had to find new things to do, so you went and, like, just terrorized whatever kid had the Rolly backpack.
I feel like... you said, like, you went out there hunting, like you just gathered the troops, like, men, we know our enemy. You just pointed to, like, a wall scroll of, like, a kid in sweatpants with a rolly backpack with a hunch looking over. Has a day planner under his arm.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's planning his day in 5th or 6th grade. I also remember there was another, like, thing we used to do in, like, 6th grade is that we called it the backpack run because everybody put their backpacks outside of class. So what you had to do is you would go running full speed and you'd have to run across everybody's backpack that was outside. Of course, you wouldn't have your own would be on your back because you were smart and you thought this through. But for all the other poor chaps that left them out there, they'd be sitting there and you'd have to try to make it all the way to the end without touching the concrete. You just had to run across the bags as
stomping on people's fucking lunch and
exactly the old backpack run.
You see, now this was like a 90s comedy where a kid brought like some magical creature to school, like, all right, Floppy, you just gotta stay inside my bag. Like, no, you just gotta stay in my bag, everything will be okay. Crunch.
Yeah, as we send John Garcia fucking running full steam across the bags.
You know, there'll be some kid who just got a brand new bag. His mom, he comes home like, what happened to your bag? Some kid ran over it. You let him? No, you let him run over the fucking backpack, did you? No, I didn't.
Just starts beating him, just like, yep, there we go, that's what you get.
Meantime, you guys like,
this is why we can't have nice
over the
things.
bags. It's your fucking assholes in middle school.
Well, it's because we weren't allowed to play Pokemon publicly anymore. Well, also, too, I think the other thing that didn't help is that when schools, like, banned Pokemon...
This is you lashing out at society.
At least this is me last year. Like, shit, going back. It was like
they just going back to the middle school.
They took Pokemon away from us, and we didn't know what to do anymore. You know what I mean? Like, when everybody was catching Pokemon still, just including the few, like, you know, there was always a kid who was going to get himself into some gambling debt. It's no different than real life and when they turn to adult. And, hey, if some kid loses his cards in a Pokemon, like, battle, you know what I mean? Like, he shouldn't have weighed the odds. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? It's not Red Dead Redemption where you can lose at poker, stand up, and shoot all the other guys and then walk out with your money. And there's consequences there, too. Next thing you know, you got fucking sheriffs on your tail.
You gotta kill their family because they saw you murder these guys. And I'll be honest, a lot of times Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of those things like, look, I didn't want to kill everybody, but you guys had to go, like, I want to go tell the law dogs and run off. And then I have to track you down, kill you. Your family saw me. I have to kill them now. I didn't want to. You brought this upon yourself. Just shut the fuck up.
And now your 10-year-old boy cleans my horse because I felt sorry for him. So I captured him, I lassoed him, threw him on the back of my horse, and took him to my camp where he now works.
He's now my manservant, or my boy servant, or however you prefer it.
See, that's like one of those features that, like, I feel like we'll never be able to get in the game because people just take slavery too serious nowadays. But, like, could you imagine if you could just literally... Well, I guess I take that back. That was what Metal Gear Solid was all about, because you literally captured these guys, sent them back to your own place, and had them work for you.
I would definitely give whatchamacallit, Red Dead Redemption 2 a little bit more credit if every time you captured somebody and threw them on the back of the horse and made a dun 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 dun.
And then they would, like, fight for you and everything like that. You, like, send them into camps and everything like that.
Arthur Morgan's like, You make them fight like, boy, fight for my amusement. Dun 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 dun. Capturing anybody, just capture some random guy and say, all right, boy, you got on out there. Come on.
I know.
Arthur Morgan just sounds like he's just like,
It just sounds like
one shot away from just like passing out. Just like, boy, I want to tell you about them getting on my goddamn horse.
This sounds weird. It sounds like Drunk Batman if Drunk Batman was in a serious picture, if that makes sense. Like
he does. Well, there's that thing because I remember I was playing the game. My girlfriend was over. She was like taking care of. She was being a responsible adult, doing some work on her laptop, and then I'm playing the game. And as she's clicking away, like every 10 seconds, she's like, because there's a thing you have to do to bond with the horse. There you go, boy. All right, boy. All right, boy. Good boy. Yeah. I'm just trying to make my bond with my horse. So I just keep on doing that. Like, why the fuck is he saying that so much? I'm bonding with my horse. Good boy. All right, boy.
I don't know. Sometimes some people don't understand. Like there's the weird video game kind of you don't notice it when you're playing it because you're the one clicking the buttons. You know what you're doing to make things progress, but it just always feels odd when you kind of listen to it from a distance.
Yeah, boy. It almost kind of just breaks into song at some point.
It is really cool though in that Pokemon Let's Go, when you beat the Elite Four, is then they kind of give you a couple of little things that you can kind of do afterwards, but there's one thing in there, I'm not even going to tell you it because I thought it was just so awesome. It was just oh, that is so awesome what they do. They added in this kind of other character that technically has slightly appeared in another Pokemon game, but I'd say just kind of barely. But I think the thing is just having in there, I'm that right there. It's something. It's very little. It's nothing oh god, this is so big and amazing. It's more just something very small, but something is in a classic Pokemon fan, you're no, that's actually really cool.
Is this do they have this mission? Because I overheard it somewhere else. Not in this, but I heard it in another game. I'm guessing maybe it was Fire Red or something, where you go and you after you're done with the Elite Four, you can go to Team Rocket's main base and stop them there. So it's one more kind of bonus mission type of thing.
No, they don't have that in this one. I kind of forgot about that one, but I do remember that.
Is that was in Fire Red or Leaf Green, right?
I think so. It was in one of the Game Boys.
Yeah,
that was in Ruby and Sapphire, but maybe it wasn't. But no, because Ruby and Sapphire I don't think have Team Rocket. But
is Rocket still in Gold and Silver?
They're still in Gold. I think Gold and Silver is the last one that Rocket was in, and then I don't. Sadly enough, they always switch them to other things. It's just can't we just have Rocket come back? It's I like Rocket more.
Fuck Team Plasma. I don't care whatever they're called. Yeah. Fuck Team Plasma.
Yeah, it's there's always somebody who's the Team Rockets, but it's let's just have Team Rocket be here the whole time. You know what I mean? I grant. How many times can you defeat their armies and bases and so on? But
Team Rocket's also one of those things. Do you motherfuckers have anything on your roster other than a Weezing? All right. Jesse and James are the big hitters. You got a Weezing and an Arbok. Beyond that, you got Giovanni, who's a badass, and then everyone else what do you got? Well, I got a Golbat, I got a Drowsy,
Rattata,
a Rattata. It's these are your three choices. If you're lucky, maybe you get maybe if you're lucky, maybe you'll get a Sandshrew. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. They always seem to get kind of the crap Pokemon that you can find anywhere in the world.
Yeah, it's well, I got a Sparrow. Oh, well, you're the rebel. All right.
Yeah, exactly, one of those ones. I think is the one thing is I look at this game was definitely the tester game. Because I felt if they would have tried, let's say the Pokemon Let's Go style and just made it an original title, it might not have sold as well. I think it was kind of a smart decision to do a remake as Yellow, because it's almost we can try a new feature that might put people off at first, but if they know that it's a remake of Yellow, they'll probably be more inclined to buy it, you know?
Yeah, I think it was a good idea. But overall, it was a really good game, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. So
because it's one of those ones, if they kept that catching style in other Pokemon games, I think I'd be totally fine with that. I actually like that a little bit more.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's I think I'd be up for that because it's one of those things where I get a little irritated sometimes with the catching just because the motion sensor is sometimes off, and it's just I think it's when they move left to right a little bit. It's just I know that's part of the thing. It's okay, you got to just right, but it's the weirdest, smallest little thing. I could literally be flicking the thing to the right, and for some reason it'll fly left. So
yeah,
it doesn't happen too often, but it happens from time to time. And I haven't had anything too major get away. It's weird. I could have something as stupid as a Zubat give me trouble, but then I'll capture something like a badass like Onyx within like 3 balls, and like, oh, there you go, got it. So it varies, but I think it was a smart thing to do to mix it up. Now I'll say this before we move on to something else, unless there's a few more things you want to say about it. I've heard people complain about saying it's just a remake. It's just a remake. I'm like, yeah, it's a fucking remake. And like I heard people say it's really easy. It's like, yeah, it's really easy because it's a remake. You know how the game works out. And I've heard people complaining how easy it is just to plow through. I'm like, well, first off, I think it's because we know these characters and we know the game like the back of our hand by this point because it's the game that goes back to the 5th or 6th grade. But on top of that, it's comfort food. It's really what it is at the end of the day. I wasn't expecting it. And they talk about the story, like, I heard people say like the story seems kind of bland, and like Pokemon never was really great about its stories. It was never like you're playing like a Metal Gear Solid game or something like that.
Well, it's a
it was
1995 Game Boy game. Like, what is? I think that's like such a dumb complaint almost. You know what I mean? Like, and here's the thing: story-wise, it adds all kinds of extra elements in it. It's got cutscenes and everything. Like, to me as an old school gamer, I'm like, dude, it's awesome.
It adds extra elements, but the story is nothing like deep. But I don't think Pokemon stories are ever that deep or really ever that well. Like, it's always like, what is it? Like, well, I did it because I'm friends with my Pokemon, and we're friends, and through the power of friendship, we can conquer anything, and yay! That's always kind of like what it is. And, I mean, the game is fine, and that's why I play it, but it's never been really amazing because of the story. So, I mean, I think there's something there you could make a good story out of. I don't know. What was did the Sun and Moon? Be brutally honest here. Be brutally honest. Mm-hmm. Did you find the story really good, or was it just, oh, that's serviceable for a fun game?
Well, Sun and Moon definitely does. Like, I think that's the thing is, I guess I feel like the only Pokemon games you played was X and Y and Sun and Moon. I could see coming into Pokemon Let's Go feeling like a step back, because those ones definitely have a lot more going on. You know, not only just story. I mean, the story's still like kid friendly and so on, but it does actually have more story stuff in it. But sometimes I'll say this: sometimes, like in Pokemon games, like, I don't give a fuck about these people's story. It's not like, to me, Pokemon's not meant to be necessarily like story as much. It's supposed to be more about my story, not their fucking story. Like, I don't give a fuck about these other people's issues and problems and so on like that sometimes. Not saying that, like, I mean, in Sun and Moon it's fine, but like, I kind of like how this game, how it plays. It's just like that classic, like, let's just go, like, you know, this is what you're here. You're playing a fun game. It's your story. You kind of add your own adventure to it through, like, the way you kind of interact with it. I think that's the thing is people have almost kind of forgot, like, in the olden days, you almost had, like, the interaction with the game. And I think nowadays, everybody's so used. I mean, like, you look at Red Dead Redemption, not to, like, put that one down a bit, but that game is so hand-holdy that it doesn't want you really to make your own, like, decisions and your own pathway as much. Where in the olden days, it was more like you just kind of figured shit out. They just dropped you in there, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, here's like for example of a game that literally just drops you in there. There's X-Men 2 for Sega Genesis, that when you start that game up, it doesn't say Sega, doesn't say anything. All it does is it randomly chooses you a character, and all of a sudden you're on the first level, and something's shooting at you right off the bat. And you're like, the fuck is going on? Oh, God, oh, and you gotta grab the controller and figure out what's going on. Like, those days are so kind of like few and far between that I think people have almost like, we have a generation now, and even people in our generation that might have forgot, that literally are used to so much hand-holding that when the hand-holding's not there, they almost kind of go like, oh, but if you don't explain this to me, I don't understand, you know? And I think that's just what we're trying to do.
I don't even think it's always that. I think it's just people are expected to have a story there and expect more of like, I don't know, maybe they're expecting more of a cinematic narrative, and I don't think it was really ever this game series' strong suit. It was always just, there's something inherently just, there's some primal thing that likes to collect. Mm-hmm. There's something in you that just likes that. Whether it be something in a video game or whether it be collecting baseball cards, action figures, cars,
stacks
nickels, stamps, whatever. There is something that like just inherently makes you want to collect things, and Pokemon does that, and it kind of gets like, oh, I don't have that one, you know. So, and this new feature of just catching it just by swinging the little remote makes it less of like okay, I gotta weaken this guy, gotta get, you know, they have a lot more balls. You have like 50 balls to start off with, so it's not like you have to run back to the store every other, you know, few turns.
Yeah, I mean, you go through the balls much faster than you did in the old times, but I think the thing is, because Pokemon, it's like, well, Japanese people have always been really good about just, they dial in 100% to, like, what, like, a certain age range is into. And it's like, what Pokemon kind of was like, you're 10 years old, you know what I mean? And we were, like, the perfect age. When Pokemon came out to the U.S., we were, like, 100% the target audience. There was, like, we weren't even just, like, slightly off. We were literally the target audience, by far. And so it, like, it captured everything about being 10 years old. Like, 10 years old, you want to go out on adventures. You like going to exploring because it was still the 90s, you know. You wanted to collect things because that was just like, that was the other thing too, is that was like right when you started like collecting video games and started really like collecting comic books or anything you kind of get your hands on, and like action figures in the boxes and so on. And so like Pokemon, I think, really just represents that. Plus, I think Pokemon at the end of the day actually has very good morals and like values, because it teaches you about like hard work, you know, experience, carrying on, building a team, building a friendship. It's almost like business skills are like in there in Pokemon. I mean, I know people always joke like, yeah, it's got slavery and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, if you're a fucking faggot, you got slavery. But if you were like, you could kind of weave that shit out and you're not like a little bitch. No. It has like great values, I think, that come from Pokemon. Because at the end of the day, it's all about bonding, being a friend, you know, helping people out, getting stronger, getting more experience, getting more money, you know what I mean, and becoming the best of the best, you know? I mean, like, yeah, people can take it like almost like capitalism, like propaganda, but you can take anything and do that if you want.
Well, people make a thing out. I mean, there's a period where we even on this show even made jokes about enslaving creatures and making them fight for your entertainment. Where that joke is said so much now. I'm like, all right, yeah, let's move on, because that's like nearly the joke every other time, and it's just a world where it's easy to, I don't know, overlook that, I guess, because even in the show, like they capture them, like, oh look, there's a fucking Caterpie, it's fighting back, Pikachu, fight it, capture it. Then they capture it like, it's oh cool, it's my friend now, cool, that's all it took. Yeah. It's almost more like, you enslaved me and took me from my family, not a big deal, we're friends now. So it's just one of those things like, all right, that's the world this is, I guess. And yeah. I think people look too deep for that, because not like kids are really going to be trying to go into dog fighting after they play this game or some shit. So
yeah, well, that's the thing too, is people don't like, it's almost like when you go into like different worlds, you got to kind of take different worlds, like it's not the same as your own, you know. And in this world, it's just, it happens to be, this is like, it's the weird bonding experience is by using the collecting nature of everything like that. I mean, the guy who put Pokemon together, you know, he was into like bug catching and so on when he was like a child, you know, and running around the woods of like Japan, you know, doing whatever you do in Japan at that time period, you know, as a boy, probably in the 60s.
Well, that dude's like a weird, that dude's an odd case, because he, I don't remember his name, but I think he had like Asperger's or something like that. And at 16 or 17, Game Freak was a fan magazine for Nintendo, and out of that, he just kind of formed a relationship with I think Shigeru Miyamoto, and then some other guys in Nintendo. And he says, like, guys, I got an idea for a game. And then, you know, Pokemon took forever to get made. And then out of that, eventually the thing did get made, because it was buggy and glitchy as fuck. And I think the guy who made Earthbound, he passed away a few years ago. Satoru Iwata, is that who it was?
Yeah, I think so. The guy he was the head of Nintendo for a long time.
He was head of Nintendo. He helped create Earthbound. He was also one of the reasons Smash Brothers happened. Not the reason, but one of the reasons. He passed away, like I think like 3 or 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. He was also, I think, one of the creators of Kirby. He came in and he helped, like, it was one of those things like, look, we just think this thing will be good for Japan. Like, we gotta go back into its code and just start from scratch. Like, that'll take way too long. And this guy, even though he's a businessman, he just rolled up his sleeves. Hey, okay. Just in very Japanese fashion, like, let me do this.
You know, a weekend went by and he put it back together. That's how I like to picture this story as. Like, everybody else left the office. He spent a week in there and put it back together.
With a rising sun bandana, you know, I just did it like over a computer for a weekend, and then like done, like, oh my god, he did it, like, yep, I did it. So that dude was a hard ass. But anyway, got off topic there. So yeah, Pokemon almost never came to the States, because like it's gonna be too buggy and too hard just to go through and translate everything, because everything was coded in Japanese.
Yeah, well, is that too? It's like, because that's also, the game comes out in '95 in Japan. It doesn't come out to the U.S. till '98, so that's a kind of a ways anyways. It's like 3 years to go.
Yeah, crazy no one was out there for that long, because that just seemed like the brand new thing. Japan was like, you guys just got this shit? What?
I don't know. That's the one thing that throws you off. That's why, like, when you look at it when it first comes out, it's like, oh, Ash has a Super Nintendo in there, you know, and not, you know, an N64 or something like that. So it all kind of.
But like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I said so. It all just kind of it all makes sense when you think about it. But it's like that's what makes that game like it's almost like you forget how old it is sometimes. I think because people think of it being like, oh, it's a late '90s game. Well, it's like not really. It's 1995. Like that's its year, you know. And so when you go back that far, which gosh, that makes it like you think about it's coming up on the 25th anniversary of Pokemon by that standard, in like a year.
Well, Jesus Christ, that freaks me out knowing that coming up on its 25th anniversary and I'm 31. So that fucks with my brain when I think about it.
Yeah, it's
because to me it started in 98, even though it technically started in like 95, 96. So yeah.
Well, that's what I love. I have a Nintendo Power poster on my wall, and it's the Pokemon one, and it says coming to a Game Boy soon. And it's just like that. The idea of this, like, they didn't even know what they were probably putting up at that time. But it was just another game coming out. So that poster was just, to me, represents just, yeah, here's this game from Japan. I don't know. Kids might like it. They might not like it. We'll just find out.
Well, there's a certain like art style that was in those original Red and Blue games. They had the watercolor kind of look. It's got like that weird like the characters look fine, but the paint, the art, the coloring of them, it just has this weird watercolor look to it. You know what I mean? Where it just kind of can't pinpoint it. There's something about that just grabbed me as a kid. I liked that art style more than the actual show, even.
I wish they'd bring that art.
And the show is what got me into it in the first place. It'd be
kind of cool if they brought that art style. Like, you know, what'd be kind of neat is if they would have done is they did this on Dragon Warrior, and I know I always bring up Dragon Warrior. It's like, well, you know what was good? Let me pull up this, but like on Dragon Warrior 11. When you had the box, it had like they put like a cover on there to try to sell it to like PlayStation gamers or whatever, where it's like it looks very like futuristic and like new and like oh it's hip and it's CG and all this stuff. But if you flip the cover around, it was like it's the 90s just like you remember it with Akira Toriyama's like artwork on there. You know what I mean? So it would have been kind of cool if like on Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, if you would have flipped the cover around and it would have had like that 90s like Pokemon Red, Blue, and Green type look to it.
Well, even Let's Go, like the artwork on the box, it has Pikachu or Eevee, whichever one you got, has that kind of watercolor look to it. Like there are parts where he looks a little bit more colored in than others. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess it does. Maybe I just didn't look hard enough at that box or something like that. But no, I just really think that this game here is just so awesome. Like I can't like hype this game up more to like people because I think a lot of people were confused because I kept seeing people on the internet when they'd be like talking about like, dude, this game is like so magical for any like 90s RPG person. Like, it's not an RPG. You just throw fucking like balls at Pokemon. It's like, oh, obviously you never saw the other trailers later on. It's still a full-on Pokemon game. And then they'd be kind of like, oh, it is? You're like, yeah, it is. I know somebody like literally took that rumor of like it's just a throwing simulator or whatever, and then just like ran with that and started a fire and then threw that idea into there and just watched it burn and take out all of Chico area, but. You know, still. Like, you know what I mean?
It was a fucking Charmander!
You know what I mean? It's just, you just throw the ball out. It's just like, but beyond that, though, it's like, I don't know. And then there's also the other thing is kind of, or what are you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, just to clarify, because I know when we first talked about Let's Go, how I seemed kind of on the fence about it. Just to clarify, I knew that there was battling in the game, but they said you primarily level your guys up by catching them over and over. And then I realized, oh, wait, that's way easier than I thought it would be. I thought like, you had to capture that particular type, like that particular one over and over. And that helps. But you can just capture whatever character a bunch of times, and then that's gonna... So, just to clarify, because I know that like a few episodes back, maybe like not just a few months back, I was like, I don't know about this, but I'm glad that I was proven wrong, and I'm glad this game is as fun as it is.
Well, that's what I mean, is I think there was just confusing marketing out there, and it was just like, and then it spread, and then like the truth wasn't really... I think if Nintendo had just been clear at the beginning, like, yo, it's a regular Pokemon game, the only thing that's different is the the capturing of Pokemon. If they would have just been like super clear about that right off the beginning, I don't think people would be so on the fence about it. Because even me and you were both confused. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Once I get a new phone, because I'm still old school. I still have like a 5S. So, Pokemon Go on that thing just fucking makes the thing crash just about. When I get a new phone, I'm definitely going to try and re-download that just to capture characters I can't get in that game and put them onto this. I'm assuming you can get characters from other games and throw them in there. I'm assuming that.
Well, I hooked mine up, and you could pretty much just transfer the 150 from there. And I happen to have all the ones that you need the Eevee copy on my Pokemon Let's Go, so I transferred them there. I mean, I'll say this. There's one thing that is a little bit of a bummer to me, I think, in Pokemon Let's Go, is when you get to Safari Zone, I was like, oh shit, Safari Zone's gonna be so awesome. There's gonna be so many cool Pokemon to go out there and capture. There is no Safari Zone. And it's like, oh, it's just
because the whole gimmick of Safari Zone was the whole gimmick of Safari Zone was out without a Pokemon. So I guess this is already the same thing.
Well, no, because the thing is, it's like the Safari Zone. What it is it's. I mean, it makes sense. Like what Safari Zone is when you take your cell phone and you go walking downtown. That's Safari Zone. So there's not really one in the game. So when you go to Safari Zone, there, all it is like, oh, we'll hook up your Pokemon Go and we'll transfer your Pokemon that you went out and caught. It's like, oh, okay. And I was a little bummed because I was actually really looking for, because I thought the Safari Zone, because of this new style, I'm like, oh my god, the Safari Zone's actually be kind of fun. You know what I mean? Because Safari Zone was always kind of like a mixed bag on the other Pokemon games. It was kind of like more of like a pain in the ass, it seemed like. Where it's like in this one, I'm like, no, this one actually might not be the way to go. Because I mean, the other thing too, it's kind of neat is almost having it where like the Pokemon, you see the Pokemon when you go to capture them, so you don't technically have the random battles. And I know random battles is kind of like phased out nowadays. I'm not really against. I still love random battles, but sometimes there is something to be said about not having them, because when you don't feel like getting in the battle, you just keep running and just like, well, whatever, or I don't need that Pokemon, I'll just keep running until I see the one I do need.
Yeah. Well, I still gotta get further in the game, but so you can't get any like later generations in the game?
I don't think so. I think there's only 153 Pokemon, so I don't know what the heck the other two are. Like,
Okay. I assume that like you could only capture the Gen 1 inside this game, but you could bring in other characters into this world. If not, well, no big deal. I mean, I'll be honest, the original 151 are the ones I really know super well, and that's kind of like, anytime you start throwing down like, oh, this is a dark character, or this is a light character, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck those are weak to, I don't know what they're strong to, or anything like that, so I'm like, alright.
Well, the weird thing too is like in this game though, they have some of the items. I found like an ice stone, but what the heck evolves from an ice stone in Pokemon Red and Blue? I don't know. It's like I have an ice stone, and like the only Pokemon I'm missing that I need to capture, I just need to do the trading for the 4, and then I just need to get pretty much the ones that you need to play the game twice to get. And that's all I'm missing. And of course the Mew, but I don't feel like spending $50 to get Mew, so.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say this. I thought that seems a little bit of a cheap thing. Just like $50 to get Mew, no skill for it. Just gotta pay for the fucking little ball thing. I guarantee you, if you buy the Pokeball, that third ball on the counter, that's probably Mew. It's just like, oh, since you spent $50 here, take this one too.
Yeah, exactly. That's right what it is.
I'm not gonna lie. For a minute, I considered getting that. I was like over at the counter, and I saw that fucking, the only ones that were left that came with the Pokeball was Eevee. So I was like, maybe. Like, it's only Eevee. And I know I can't evolve this thing. So, all right, never mind. Eevee's a fine character, but I mean, I guess the bright side, you can give him any TM and he can learn it. So I guess that's probably the bright side of Eevee.
Yeah, I mean, like, I like Eevee a lot, and I considered that too, but it's like, what I really like about Eevee, though, is I more like Jolteon and like some of his evolution ones instead. So it's kind of like
Jolteon and Flameon.
Yeah, so like when I can't level him up or can't evolve him, it's kind of like, well, I guess I'll just take Pikachu then. I'm like, also at the same time, I'm like, Pikachu's kind of like, it gives me like the classic. It feels like, okay, no, this is the Pokemon Yellow, because to me, like, back in the day, like, I didn't really have Red and Blue right off the bat. Like, I borrowed it from, like, my cousin, Pokemon Blue, and her Game Boy. And then it wasn't until, like, the Pokemon Yellow version came out that I finally owned a Game Boy myself and got to play it. So that's where I was looking like, I want to go with the 100% classic. I was going to get Pikachu just the way that, like, life intended and go from there. But
I wish that you could still evolve him to a Raichu though, because I just wish that just have this big old fat like Raichu this thing following you around, like no way that thing's gonna be hanging out on your fucking shoulder.
Well, I also do like how you can take the Pokemon out of the Pokeball and have them run around. I mean, at first I was kind of bummed out when I noticed, I'm like, oh, you can't get a bike, but it's like, well, you can have a Pokemon. You can ride a Charizard into town.
Yeah, fuck a bike. You could ride a Charizard through fucking town. Just imagine that. A world where a 10-year-old is just riding on a fucking dragon. Like, do you have a permit for that thing? Yeah, right here.
Or just like, dude, you get like Aerodactyl and you can like fly like high above everything. And it's like, oh, this is badass. You know what I mean? Or just ride your like Arcanine just like going through, just like...
I'll be honest, it's one of those things, like, sometimes I wish it was, like, 8 instead of 6, because I kind of like, man, I'm really attached to this Charizard, but Arcanine and Growlithe are two of my favorite characters, and fuck, I think Arcanine would be a good starter character.
Well, that's what I mean. That's where I think that idea that I kind of have, where like instead, like you just have a random. Because I think if I got like Growlithe, like say if he was Pokemon #1, you got him at level 6 right off the bat. I think I could like use him the whole way. Because every single time I always I always want to use Arcanine and everything like that. But I just feel like there's almost so much extra work I have to put into because he comes in like halfway into the game that you're kind of like, ah.
But exactly. Like, I wish he's a character that came up sooner because he's one of my favorite characters, yet I don't have any reason to get him because by that point I have either Charmeleon, which is almost a Charizard, or Charizard. So it's like...
And I know that Nintendo would be like, well, this is what you do. You go out and you get Pokemon Eevee right now and you start a new file and you trade it from your old one. You're like, oh, yeah, well... And make sure you buy 2 Switches, too. Don't forget the 2 Switches part.
Well, what I do kind of like is I've tried doing some of the characters you got to trade with. This is going to be exclusively. I was originally going to talk about some other shit. Fuck it. This is going to be exclusively a Pokemon episode. We're already this far into it.
That's what I thought it was anyways.
But I'll save the other stuff for next time. But it's like one of those things where what I do kind of like about it was... Because you and me, we were trying to connect on the Switch program, and
I still can't figure that out.
Like, for whatever reason, we couldn't connect. We had the same code, and I kept on. And there's this one person, and this is what I like. There's no little chat thing like send me this guy, send me that guy. You're just going on a whim, like maybe, and you see the one they want to trade, and they see the one you want to trade. So I'm like. And I just wanted to evolve some of my guys. And it's just like, okay, I'm really trusting some humanity right here. And I can't even say what the guy's name is. It was written in Japanese. I have no idea this dude's name. Or if it's even a he. I see he has like a Graveler. I'm like, okay. I got a Haunter. All right, let's see if he does this. We trade each other off. And then this is like, okay, let's see if he's a trustworthy person. I'm going to send his guy back. And because, it transformed into a... Golem or whatever, and then he transferred my Gengar back. I'm like, he's a trustworthy guy, and then so we just did that. I just saw what he wanted to trade. Like, he knows. Okay, we're on the same page.
I mean, I really feel
he has honor.
I feel at the end of the day, I mean, who else? At the end, I mean, there's gonna be some shyster on there, but I feel like trading wise, what else are you going on there to do to like some random stranger and God knows where, other than just try to get this Pokemon to evolve?
The trading the evolve, that kind. So then I felt like a piece of shit because then he pulled out a Kadabra. I'm like, oh, I don't got a Kadabra. I got nothing left to trade. Later, off. But I got like 3 or 4 guys evolved through him. So I'm like, all right, cool. Thank you. So, and I just like, same exact page. Nothing had to be said. We both knew. I'm like, this guy's a Gen 1 guy, probably.
Yeah, we all know what it's about. Well, that's the one system. Is like that online system's so kind of like weird because I will say like on Sun and Moon and X and Y, like I was like beyond impressed. Like I never really even used the online system, but like they had it like super in depth on like how much stuff you could kind of do on there. So once again, I guess if somebody is complaining about Pokemon, this one being a little bit simple, like compared to the last 2 on 3DS, they definitely had like a lot going on for some of those things. But at the same time, I don't know, like sometimes the older I get, there's times where, as a kid, I think there's I'll say this, as a teenager, not necessarily a kid, but as a teenager, I think you want the most complicated thing known to mankind. That is the teenager mindset, is you want it to be so complicated. You know what I mean? But as an adult, sometimes you're like, you know what? I like it being streamlined. At the end of the day, like, there's something to be said about, like, let's just kind of, you don't always need all the bells and whistles in life. Sometimes just a little bit of good sunshine on your face and a tune in your head and you're good to go, and that's sometimes all you need. And this one just really does give that feeling the whole way through. And the other thing I like too is like, this sounds like such a weird one, is I like the one-handed controller like idea is actually kind of cool, because that's something back in the 90s you'd read like in like a Game Pro or something like that they you could get some off-brand one-handed controller so you could play Final Fantasy with it and so on like that. And I'm always like, that sounds so awesome, and of course you never ran across that in any store. You probably had to special order it like offline, like get the Mad Cat special today, somewhere like that.
Mad Cat, like it was like, wasn't like the M looked like just like 3 claws scratched down.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I always kind of dreamed of, like, man, having that one-handed controller. Think about it, nowadays you could sell the one-handed controller and be like, yeah, it gives you a hand so you can put a beer in it. So you get your Pokemon in one hand, drink it. Like, I feel like that's totally the way to sell it now to, like, adults. Is just like...
I'm imagining just the one just, like, You're an old-timer gamer. You've been doing this since the days. But let me tell you what, it's not as easy as it used to be. It demands a lot from you. So come on down to Old Sal's Gaming. We got one made just for you to make it easy on your hands so you can still focus on your gaming but not get too stressed out in the meantime. Figure out what all these kids are doing with their motion controls. We also got a nice little stencil right here. You put it around your neck, hook up your drink to it, put in a straw to make it easy for yourself so you can have yourself a nice old draft beer while you play at the game. Just like Old Sal's Gaming Hall.
But there is something kind of nice. It's just like, I remember like when the Wii first came out, like, and that controller, like, that's why, like, I always say, well, whenever a game's done right on the Wii, I think that's one of the best controllers they ever made, because it's like, it's so comfortable. Like, you know, you can put your hands anywhere you feel like. You know, you can put them behind your head, you put them to the side, you can crisscross them, you know what I mean? And it was just like, I noticed in Pokemon Go, it's like, I can almost, like, play the game with my arms crossed, like, so you feel like a fucking magician. Like, no one can see the tricks that you're doing. And it's just like, there's something kind of be said about that. I'm like, I kind of hope that feature comes in more games, because even something like I think about like with like Octopath Traveler and everything like that, I'm like, that would have been awesome to have the one-handed controller there. Because, you know, generally in most RPGs, you just need like, you know, confirm, cancel, menu, and maybe like one or two other buttons, and that's it. I mean, I do kind of wish that like they... Yeah, I kind of wish on Pokemon you could customize the buttons a little bit more, because I thought it was kind of weird. It's like, they made confirm was like 90% of the buttons. It was just like, well, how about, can I have cancel be R1 and then have confirm be R2? That would have been the design I would have went with, but whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm just imagining what it would be like playing with the little ball thing. I mean, that ball, as a kid, I would have been like, I can't play without the ball. The ball is the only way to play it. Now I'm like, I don't need the fucking ball. I mean, it's cool. I mean, and my other thing is like, they just like, I remember that ad for it, it's like, here's the ball, you can go out in public with it, and you push a button, it makes a noise of whatever character is in there. At the exact same time, like, so risk that thing getting fucking lost?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of a difficult one. I mean, and then the other thing that's kind of neat is if for somebody really hated the idea of playing with, like, motion controls or something like that, you can literally just play the game, like, old school Game Boy style when you undock it, and it's the normal Game Boy.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, well, you have to always have like one controller in your hand, don't you?
No, if you have it slid together, you can literally play it just old school Game Boy style, like a normal game with no motion controls.
Really? Then how do you catch them?
You literally, well, okay, I take it back. You have to aim what you do in that one is you aim the screen instead, and you press A.
Oh, that's not so bad. I'm gonna give that a shot.
No, it's kind of nice, because sometimes it's like if the you know, TV was in use, I just whipped that thing out there and just like was playing it like that. It's like, oh, okay, it's kind of cool.
That's not bad. Okay, I'm gonna have to give that a shot now. All right, my motion controls might be a little better with that one.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I will say I probably still like the single controller more, but it was kind of it's just a neat feature that they have, just in case you want to take that thing portable, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what I really look at, it's like the cool thing about this game, I think, is thinking about what the Pokemon game will be next year or whatever the next one they do, because I feel this was totally the test run game to kind of get an idea of how it is. You know, use something classic, try some new things. I feel the next one, though, is going to be like, ooh, I just can't wait for that. It's going to be so dialed in.
Well, the next one, this is not the main game they're talking about. This is like, here's a little fun thing we're throwing out for you, and then they got a big, full-on new game coming out like next year, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I bet you this one was still, because they might use that Pokemon. I don't know if I think that the Let's Go thing, like, they didn't want to mention the other one, but I think this was a tease to see, like, do people like this catching style or people not like this catching style?
And also a test. The people are split really down the middle on that, and I'm not going to lie, I was a little, like, when I first saw it, I was a little unsure about the whole thing, but I think it works fine. I think maybe because I know this game. I know this game really well, so seeing... I don't know, it's kind of hard to say, because... Yellow, blue, and red are the only ones that I played through the whole way. Everything else, I had silver, but then, you know, I just lost sight of it, and then by the time I was willing to give it a shot, I don't know, I think I gave the cartridge to my nephew or something. And then black, I have black, or no, black or... Yeah, is it white or black? I think it's black. I have black, but I just never got around to finishing it. It's a fun game, and I want to finish it, but I just haven't got around to that yet. Mm-hmm. So this one right here, I think since I already know it and I've been doing it, I already know how I already know the game super well. Like, okay, well, this is just kind of an interesting little filter to put it through. Maybe a new game, they might go back to the original way of catching them. I think that this is kind of a test run. Like, let's put out something people are familiar with and see how they respond. And I'm surprised how 50-50 it is. This thing's kind of like I said, like the new Star Wars, it's kind of divisive. Because the second you go and fuck with someone's old, like, thing that makes them feel like a kid again, that's where they get very temperamental and very like, this is not what it's different. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It's very similar, but it's different. It's like,
Yeah, and to me, as like, an old school Pokemon fan who's just always enjoyed Pokemon games, like, I like it 100%. It's, in Game Informer, they might have gave Red Dead Redemption a 10 out of 10, but I think this game's a little bit higher than that.
I think I gotta still finish Red Dead. I'm digging the story. It's a fun game, but this one's a little. I'm not gonna lie. This game is easy. It is.
Oh yeah.
Easy. I'm not lying that. But
Pokemon. That's always been my complaint to Pokemon games. Is I always just kind of wish they were a little bit more difficult. And as time went on, I remember Black and White. That was one of the first ones. Like they raised it like slightly, and then X and Y, and even Sun and Moon. They like the bar goes up a little bit, but what they really need to do is make it go up like way higher. It's like. I think that, like, because you never notice that most of the time you seem to be about 10 levels higher than every trainer you come across. I think what they just need to do is just have a percentage system in there that just bases it on almost like, hey, whatever level you are, these guys are going to be around the exact same level too. Or I think just, if you just raise every character about anywhere between 5 to 10 levels, I think that'd be the way to go about it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'll say this about the game. Probably wrap it up here soon, but say this about the game. It's one of those games that's like, if you already like it, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say if this will make you feel like a kid again and get you. I don't know how do I put this. I can't fucking talk today. It's one of those things. It'll definitely make you feel like a kid again if you grew up playing the game. It might seem a little too simplistic and maybe too familiar, because I heard some people say it's too much of the same thing. But for me,
it's a remake, though. That's like somebody complaining about Resident Evil, being like, the Resident Evil remake on the GameCube is the same game, but with better graphics. And like, it's like, well, yeah,
it's a remake.
What did it say in the title? You know what I mean?
It's a remake with a few bells and whistles.
That's like someone goes, exactly like, the Twin Snakes is the same story. You fight Liquid in it, and you battle on a metal. It's like, well, yeah. What were you expecting, retard? Like, I don't know.
Some people were expecting a full-on like Redux, like really expanding on this and that. And I think some people were expecting too much. I'm not sure if this is going to change anyone's opinion on whether they like Pokemon or not. I don't think it's going to do that. But I think if you already like it and you're willing to just embrace it, just think, oh, it's just the same game, just with a few bells and whistles. Then yeah, I mean, it's just cool seeing these. It's cool, like, just some of the, nods they make to the original, as well as pushing things forward in some way.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's no different than, like, when Fire Red and Leaf Green came out, those are just remakes, too, but that was amazing. You know what I mean? I
guess because at that time they're still, like, starving for, like, like, oh my god, we get to see it in color, but now you get to see it in full graphics, and you get to see, like, these nice, really colorful graphics. You hear these songs from your childhood, but in, like, revised. More than 8-bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me...
they throw Jesse and James... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, to me, this game is just this is the game that I've always wanted since the N64 days, that I always said, this is the game they should make. Because I always used to be like, N64 was out. Man, just imagine if they made Red and Blue and put it on the N64 and it looked like Legend of Zelda and Final Fantasy, you know what I mean? And then the GameCube came out and be like, man, imagine if they did this and they put it on there. I mean, we got Pokemon Coliseum, but it wasn't really enough yet. And then the Wii came out, and I was like, oh my god, this is the perfect system to have it. Imagine you'd have motion controls and everything like that, and then they bypassed that one. And then the Wii U came out, it's like, shit, well, maybe they'll do it here. Well, I guess they didn't do it there. And then they finally got around to doing it on the Switch. And to me, it's just, if you're a 90s gamer who likes Magic and all the good times, this game is where it's at. If you hate life and you're a dark, depressing person, then you definitely aren't going to probably like it. But I feel like I can't say high enough things about this. This game to me is just awesome. Like, yeah, it could be harder, but that's always been a complaint in Pokemon game, and I think it's one of those ones, like, at the end of the day, I mean, they are making it for kids. They're not, you know what I mean? It's not like Pokemon mature rated, It's not like one of those series that has, like, kind of progressed, like, Castlevania or, like, Tomb Raider or any of these other ones that, like, have gone farther and farther up the chain. Or even Metal Gear Solid.
Well, it's funny because the guy who originally made Pokemon, he wanted it to not the businessman, but the guy who actually made it himself, came up with the concept and was one of the initial programmers and all that. I'm forgetting his name, but he initially wanted Pokemon to age more with his audience, and he wanted Red to develop more as a character and wanted interesting things to happen. Like, but as it went on, the suits are like, there's always going to be a 10-year-old kid, and that, you know, there's always going to be like some kid willing to spend money on some cards and some plastic. So Ash is always going to be 10, and he's never going to become a Pokemon master. So that was one of the things that made me kind of... I didn't even hear that interview, but I kind of saw that being laid out. I went from being like... Because once Gold and Silver, that once they go to the Johto League, that's where I'm like, this is the exact same thing. This is exactly the same thing, and he's not progressing. He's just still the same fucking idiot. Because even as a kid, I didn't like Ash. I thought he was fucking stupid, but I wanted him to do good just so the show would progress. And then, you know, I was just like, all right, well, I see what they're doing here. Every time a new game comes out, it's just going to be rinse repeat. So with the character at least of Ash. So, and apparently, I guess the Pokemon Adventure manga, I guess that one is a little bit more of what they're hoping for, because apparently it's definitely gets darker, gets more serious, and not like in a like him holding Pikachu's corpse in the rain, like no, nothing like that.
He was my father. Like what? Oh Jesus. It's gone this far now. We always wondered who Ash's dad was.
Well, there's that whole theory that like Pikachu's like there's like a fan theory, I guess, that Ash's father captured Pikachu and left him there for Ash, like to Oak. There's like a fan theory about that. But
wait, remember when Dad said he went to get a pack of cigarettes and never came back?
They never come to his thing with his father. They never go into deep father shit, at least as far as I know. Because I just got curious one day and I went looking to see things that happened in the show that pushed things forward and see where it went. And some shit about his dad never popped up. There's apparently some character that Ash bumped shoulders with that implies it might be his dad, but they never really say. And then he's never like, what happened to Dad, Mom? They never fucking tell. And then like he didn't meet Giovanni of Team Rocket until like I think like maybe 5 years ago. I think that was the first time he met Giovanni. And it wasn't like this big like, oh shit, it's you? It's like, I'm Giovanni. I'm Ash. Let's fight. Okay. That's all it fucking was. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You waited that long and now you don't even do that. So the show fucking, I mean, maybe the new one's better, but after a while, like, fuck the show. But,
they Star Wars that have Giovanni be his dad.
Yeah, well, not even that. I'm just something. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things that you could see they weren't trying to... You weren't trying to elevate it. You weren't trying to, you know, make... It's one of those things, like, the show just seems like, what's the new game? That. Okay, pull characters from that. Throw it in there. What's the story? Doesn't fucking matter.
Well, yeah, it's totally the old school marketing that, like, hey, we need something so we can sell some cards, sell some, you know, action figures, and sell some... you know, Pokemon games. Like, that's what the show does. There's always a 10-year-old kid, and I get that. I mean, I know what they're doing, because who knows? There might be 10-year-old kids out there right now that, like, you know, the Sun and Moon is their fucking jam, and that's what they're going for, just like how, you know, old school Pokemon was for us. I mean, the show was literally prematurely cut for me because the channel that it was on Warner Brothers just fucking disappeared off, like, satellite. So it's just like, I remember, like, oh, there it goes. I never even got to even anything close to, like, Gold and Silver, all that stuff. That didn't happen until, like, much later, till, like, it switched over to being on, like, Cartoon Network or something like that, when it went straight cable only.
Well, even, like, because I was in it, but, like, I'll say this. The show does, not like the show doesn't have good moments, and not that the movie didn't have good moments. That part where Ash dies, that part still is like kind of emotional. I mean, not it's all emotional until they cut to that dudong. It's like, "Dah!" Like, as you're watching all these characters crying, like, the boy died.
Yeah.
He sacrificed himself for Dah! So it just like fucking kills that emotional moment right there. But it's not even so much like, oh, the boy died, it's so sad. It's more like you see Pikachu like, dude, get up. Why aren't you getting up? Like,
yeah.
Oh shit, he's not getting up. Yeah, it's like one of those moments as a kid, like, oh fuck.
Oh yeah, totally, definitely like that. I mean, I think in the long run it'd be cool if Nintendo just put something like other video games have this, where they just have like difficulty levels or something like that. I would love just to have like the hardcore, like, let's just add that into there, where, like, you know, everything's gonna be just that much stronger, all the trainers are gonna be that much stronger, and so on, and just like, why not? I mean, I know there's some because you know there's so many fan-made Pokemon games out there, and I know there's a bunch of good ones, and I've kind of looked through them before, wondering like which ones would be kind of fun to play. I mean, they got ones where you can play as like the police officers, they got ones where you can play as Team Rocket, they got all kinds of neat stuff that sound cool if you had like, you know, fucking hyperbolic time chamber of like free time to like test things out. And I know there is some where they do make them tough. The only downfall is sometimes fan tough sometimes can be a bad thing, because then they make it like ridiculously tough where it's not even fun anymore. I just want like regular.
As if you're one of those people. As if you're one of those like mathematicians that goes to those tournaments.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do the thing where they make it like close to impossible tough. You know what I mean? Be like, only the greatest Pokemon masters can play this. Like, you start off, it's like, you got a level 6 Pokemon, but you have to defeat, like, a level 12 person right off the bat. You know, it's like, or else the game restarts.
Well, it's like, there's like some level, I mean, I can't say this for myself. I'm literally going off of what someone else said. Most random person of all who said it. I want to say it was Robert C. Cargill. Is that his name? Robert C. Cargill of Junk Food Cinema. Mm-hmm. Who was at one point in time on Spill.com, was talking about, because he's apparently a big Pokemon fan, and he's like one of the screenwriters of Doctor Strange. He wrote a couple of novels. I think his most recent one was Sea of Rust, and he also was one of the writers on Sinister. Mm-hmm. He's apparently a big Pokemon fan. He was talking about like, apparently the mathematics behind the game is that Goodwill Hunting level shit. like it's almost put together like that. Like, okay, so here there is an equation to beat the game. This character has to be at this level and use this attack on this type of character, and then so it's literally there's certain mathematicians who like the game but have it down to a science, because they know the code, the literal number code between each character and what they have to be at in order to win. So like, okay, well, I need to use Harden right here, quick attack here. Of course, probably stronger attacks than that, but you get the idea, you know. So
yeah, and then there's definitely ways to go about it. And the interesting thing too is like in the last like handful of Pokemon games, even Pokemon Black and White, they have something where like once you beat like, you know, whatever the Elite Four is in that game, there'll actually be these really tough characters out there that you have to battle. Because I remember Black was one of the first times I saw that, and it was like, oh, what? There's like level 75 people now like in the area and stuff like that. I'm like, that's cool. But I just kind of wish, like, can I have that kind of stuff, like, way earlier on where, like, there's, like, much tougher people and stuff like that? Like, it would be pretty sweet. I mean, once again, somebody out there might have made a fan-made one, but, like, just to have the old red and blue, but just have the difficulty cranked up, even just a little bit more. Like, you know, it would make a difference just to have just that higher bit. And I know that's always kind of a Pokemon complaint, and once again, it kind of ties that. I mean, you could say, a lot of games aren't nearly as hard as they should be, and then you get games that go like the distance where they're so hard that they're like almost not even fun anymore. So there's like it's that fine ground of getting that center area where it's challenging yet still fun and exciting.
Apparently there's apparently some of those like level like 70 80 guys you bump into are apparently lead programmers and business people from Nintendo and Game Freak.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I remember there's just like, yeah, in Black and White they had some of those, and all the other ones do too, which is kind of always neat. Like even Sun and Moon had a bunch of like stuff that you could kind of do kind of post game, and actually it was sort of the hard mode, which is kind of like that's like the classic Nintendo thing is you start the game off kind of easy, but as the game like once you get kind of to like the ending stuff, it's like it gets really ridiculously hard. I always think like Mario World or like a lot of the Mario games, it's like, you know what I mean? Like you get some of those like bonus levels towards the end of them. Then it gets really fucking tough, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not just a simple game you kind of remembered, but, or even like, you know, Master Quest of Zelda, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, that kind of adds that extra bit of difficulty to Ocarina of Time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, that's kind of there, but, you know, who knows? In this new Pokemon one, maybe they will kind of take in, because by this point, they should kind of assume that, like, okay, well, Pokemon's always going to appeal to kids, and kids will always buy, but should we shoot for our, you know, our old school audience that still hasn't left us since the 90s?
I feel like this game is kind of trying to make that middle. I think they're almost trying more shoot towards old school fans, but then try to bring on some new school fans, the few little bells and whistles, but also just seeing how new school fans react to some of the more simplified things with less types, the catching mechanics, and other things like that. So, I don't know. I think that if they suddenly said, this is the new way we capture them, I wouldn't mind, because it's it's something different. It doesn't feel like I'm doing the same thing over and I mean, you are doing the same thing in the sense you have to catch this thing over and over. But I mean, it feels like, okay, capturing them is a different game than battling them.
Well, also to me is I just feel I haven't wanted to like catch all 150 or like whatever the max number is in a Pokemon game really since Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. So the fact that this now makes me kind of want to go out and capture them all again, that's pretty cool. Because most of the time it just almost seems like just such excess work, like in all the other Pokemon games, to go get them all. It's like, it's just not really worth it. You know what I mean?
They don't have the random encounter thing. Yeah, because you can actually see who's there, so you know who to avoid. You don't have to like. I'll say this though, I would have like I would try to capture him, but I hate Zubat. I really hate Zubat, but I would almost go out of my way to capture Zubat because it meant I was taken away from its friends and family.
Turn him into candy.
That made me happy. Yeah, I like the idea of this thing being exiled to a ball, never leaving it again, and somewhere its friends and family are wondering what happened to it. That helps me sleep better at night.
Yeah, there's always that.
Some people are like, oh, Jesus Christ, this got too fucking dark. I just hate fucking Zubat. I hate Zubat. And there's a time where Zubat was like... there's a time where like you would get anything you'd like. Because you get to be like... There's a time where it was hard to get Pokemon shit because it was just this huge phenomenon and everybody was just going after it and it was way more popular than people thought it would be. Mm-hmm. So when it first came out and KFC had the most randomest... You could go to KFC and get these Pokemon Beanie Babies. It was the most random assortment. It was Zubat, Vulpix, Seal, and Dratini. Those are some random fucking choices. It's not like the starters and Pikachu.
Like, did Colonel Sanders pick this? Like...
It's like, why? I think it was some shit like maybe these are the only ones maybe you can get the other ones in stores. You can't get these ones. You can only get these ones at KFC.
They were the cheaper
maybe some shit
licensing.
Like that.
KFC's like, okay, the Pikachu licensing is really expensive. Same with the Charmander and Bulbasaur. Oh, what's the cheapest ones you got?
So Zubat, Vulpix was cool,
yeah.
But Zubat was one of those ones. I remember forcing myself to like Zubat so much more because I went out of my way and get this because it was one of the only things I can get. So Zubat was like, it's one of the only ones I can get. I like Zubat. Zubat's cool. Then once you actually get the game and get more, like, oh, fuck Zubat. I don't give a shit about this fucking thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no. Well, I think too.
My favorite character is Batman, and I don't give a fuck about Zubat.
Well, this is the thing about Zubat is like, I was in the Mewtwo cavern in Pokemon. And it's like, why are there still Zubats appearing here? Like, nobody wants a Zubat by this point, you know what I mean? Like have them appear in Mount Moon, but don't have them appear anywhere else beyond that, you know?
When you capture Mewtwo, is it as simple as a Master Ball still, or do you have to like? Well, does it still take?
Well, you battle him first, and then which is like the.
Oh, you actually have to battle him?
Yeah, the way that they do all the legendary Pokemon, which is kind of interesting, is you battle him first. And same with like Snorlax and everything like that too. I guess he's like in the legendary Pokemon character. You battle him, and then it goes into the Pokemon Go capturing thing. So I mean, yeah, technically, once you go to Pokemon Go, you just throw the mask. But the first thing I thought when I threw the mask ball is because I was like, oh god, is it gonna be like, is this gonna be like the kind of throw when I go to throw it straight and it just shoots off to like the right side? Because that's all I think. I'm just totally gonna miss him. And so, like, and granted, no, it goes to a cutscene and it like totally catches him. But that's my first theory was like, oh god, I'm gonna throw this Master Ball, I'm gonna totally miss because especially some of those Pokemon towards the end, they're like darting left and right, and you throw so many Ultra Balls before you finally hit something.
Yeah, so that's why. So I like the idea of you throw this thing just a cutscene. Like, oh, don't worry, we'll hand you this.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, even as a kid, I'm just even like throwing this thing like, so I missed it. Can I just go back, grab it, and pick it back up and throw it at him later?
Yeah, I know. It's like, what do I do? No, you litter.
Yeah.
It's just like once a beer can's on the ground, you don't pick it back up.
It's part of nature now. That's a crab. If you're by the beach, that's a crab's home now.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like a seedling producing an aluminum tree someday.
Look, a Coors tree.
But yeah, so it's got kind of a cool way you kind of go about that, and I mean, it's definitely easier because I will say, I guess those are some of the battles where I can see somebody kind of complaining a little bit, being like, because it was always kind of that was like almost like the tough parts of Pokemon games, because no matter I don't care who you are, it's always going to be kind of tough because you got all the randomness going on. So when you're trying to capture Zapdos or anything like that, and it's like, okay, I got to get his health really low, I got to put him to sleep or stun him or make sure he stays that way without killing him, and then continuously throw Pokeballs at him until I finally capture him. So there is that kind of challenge, but I don't know, I almost can't really complain about like the way it was in this. It's like, it's fun. I still get to capture them. I still have a little battle with them and everything. I feel like I get all the moments. I mean, yeah, I don't really have the difficulty, but I still get the moment, the feelings, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I thought it just all worked out cool in that way. And I think that was just kind of a nice little touch they had, because they could have just done it where it was just straight catching them, but I think just adding the battling, then capturing them, it's like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, no, I recommend this game. It's a good game.
You know what's
go ahead.
you know what's the one weird thing that I thought is you don't get the fishing pole, so you really don't get any water Pokemon until like much later in the game, because you have to get Surf to be able to like find water Pokemon. I thought that was kind of odd.
That is kind of weird. Yeah, I don't really expect that. That is kind of strange right there. But I mean,
it's not a bad thing, but I think it's just kind of weird if you want water Pokemon, you really have to go to Fuchsia City to finally get them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why they give you the option to get Squirtle or Magikarp from the beginning or whatever else. But no, yeah, that is kind of a weird thing. But no, it's definitely, I'd still recommend this game. There's some things like that throw you a little bit of a curveball, but it's still definitely a fun game worth playing.
Oh yeah, no, I think this game is just totally worth grabbing, and it's just that magical year for like anybody who's like a '90s gamer / RPG traditional turn-based. It's like, God, you couldn't ask for like a better year. Almost like with Octopath Traveler, Pokemon, and Dragon Quest. It's just like I haven't seen this many like turn-based RPGs on a console in years. Not a handheld, a console. Not since like the PS2 days, and the early PS2 days for that matter. Not, you know what I mean? You have to go far back.
Yeah. No, I definitely, if you like turn-based RPGs, it's definitely a game to get.
Yeah, it's totally awesome, and I can't say more of the good things. It's just been a great Pokemon like going back in time and just reading the comics over again and all that fun stuff. I love looking at the back ads on those comic books too, because it's like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Where it's just like that was like totally advertising animes before you even knew what they were. Like there was a Battle Angel Alita on there and stuff. It's like, at that time period, nobody would have known really what the hell that was.
What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's just throw it out there. Someone will like it.
Well, because they're all from like that really gave me like a flashback. Was like because it was the Viz video type comics and all that stuff. Because that company, I remember like somebody passing me like in '98 like a catalog from Viz, and it was like, oh my god, it was like finding like some like secret document. Like, look at the massive amount of anime and manga you can find here at this place, and they have action figures and like T-shirts, and it's just like Ranma 1/2 and Dragon Ball and all this stuff just like shoved in your face, and you're like, and of course you look down at the price tag. I was like, order now from mail order for $29.99. You're like, oh well, I don't have that money. But Jesus Christ, that's more expensive than a Pokemon cartridge. Get 4 episodes.
Yeah.
But it was just like that Viz company that like when I saw those ads in the back there, it was just like,
Ranma, get you while you can. It's like 1920s newsboy.
Yeah, I know. Well, because that was like what it was. Like all those ones. There's like a Neon Genesis Evangelion like ad on the back of one of those Pokemon ones, and just like there's a Darkstalkers one on there too for its animated series. It's just like one of those ones like.
Sounds like they don't really even know their audience yet.
Well, because this company though just sold all manga and anime. That was all they did. So it was just anything and everything manga. It was like that was their target. It was just like, hey.
I mean, I guess if you like Evangelion, you can like Pokemon or whatever. But I guess just one is way more harsher and way more fucking psychological than the other.
Yeah, but to me, that they go together like hand in hand, because at that time period, it didn't matter what it was. You watched.
You're just grabbing whatever you can.
Yeah, you watched anything anime or whatnot. There was no judgment at that time period.
At that time, yeah. Now I think there's a big difference between those two. But at the time, it's just like, I don't know, they got big eyes, it's from Japan, they'll take whatever we throw them.
Yeah. And I think those companies, that's just what they did. They translated. It's funny, because Viz Video, it's in San Francisco. I'm like, dude, you should see if they're still there.
I doubt it.
I know. I haven't heard about Viz. It's weird, because that was a company that probably in the 90s was like the biggest anime, manga distributor known to mankind. But do you think they even exist now? Good question.
Probably not. I think Funimation has the monopoly on most of that kind of shit now.
I think so, too. And they got the monopoly so much that they own the copyrights to Dragon Ball Z. It's kind of weird to think about.
That's crazy.
They went over and slapped Akira Toriyama and took it from him. I don't know if that's how it went down, but something happened there. And
someone got spirit bombed.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that was funny. Just those little flashbacks. That's what you always gotta like about when you pull up in an old comic and you just see those you don't think much of them at the time, but it's like, give it 20 years, and when you look back at something, God, it's a weird thing. Those comics, 20 years. That's when I went and got them, was 20 years ago, 1998. Was when I. So weird to think.
Yeah. 20. I don't want to think about how long ago it was, but yeah.
Shit. would have looked at them and been like, Neon Genesis Evangelion, $30. Jesus Christ, where would I ever get that kind of money? Have to get a job at a steel mill for that.
Outlaw Star Volume 3, $45. What?
It contains
by
3
ADV
episodes.
Films.
Well, that's something I thought was funny. The subtitled versions were more expensive in that Viz video. It was $25 for a VHS dubbed, and $30 subtitle. I'm like, are you kidding me? It takes one guy to translate it and put the subtitles in. That's like a weekend job. I mean, granted, probably a little bit longer than that. It will also make me like,
probably wanted that version
here,
more.
let me tell you, translating is a real job here. Don't think of it just like some weekend warrior shit.
The Bruce Springsteen of like fucking Japanese dubs.
Yeah.
No, like, it was probably one of those things like they knew their fan bases liked subtitles more, so they probably just like, we'd charge more for these fucks for that. And like, all right, well, these guys are probably already getting them bootlegged from a fucking, even though it's a Japanese thing, they're probably getting them bootlegged from a Chinese store somewhere.
At a Comic-Con,
just like,
whatever.
They know a guy, yeah. That's why a lot of that was. A lot of that was just like some. I mean, I have like what I'm pretty sure is a bootlegged. I didn't buy it intending that, but it was at an Amoeba video. I bought a bootlegged Rurouni Kenshin live action movie, but it still says Samurai X, even though I know it's not that over here. So, yeah.
Oh, it says Samurai X? Because I got a Samurai X one too. The anime or the live action?
The live action movie.
Oh, okay.
Live action movie. They called it Samurai X, the live action movie. I'm like, that's not what it is, but it's only $10. Let's see what happens. Oh, this is the official movie. How about that? Cool. All right.
Oh, yeah, well, you can't complain there.
Anyway.
But,
we should probably wrap this up, though.
Yeah. Well, check out all that fun stuff. We'll put some links on the description if you want to. If you are on the fence and want to grab the game, well, there it is right there. We'll make it there. You can support the podcast all at the same time. Won't cost you any extra. But go check out Pokemon Let's Go. It's pure awesome. You know what I mean? And finally, maybe once I finally finish all that up, I'll finish up Red Dead. Red Dead's just solely been like the put on the side, like the wallflower of video games. It sounds so weird. You never think you would use those words together, but it's like, that's kind of how Red Dead is. It's like, oh, well, I didn't finish Dragon Warrior yet. Well, I guess I'll finish that before I play Red Dead. Oh, Red Dead's pretty fun. Oh, Pokemon's coming out? Oh, okay, Red Dead, we'll put you over here to the side. You know what's going to happen if I don't finish Red Dead in time? Smash Bros. Is going to come out and be like, okay, Red Dead, I guess we'll get to you in a little bit.
It'll happen one day. Arthur Morgan's like, come on, boy. Need some beans, lay it on the ground, fucking.
Exactly. But till then, you can check oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, comic books, cartoons, music, and more. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
See you some other time.
Later, folks.
Thanks again for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Be sure to check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, cartoons, music, animation, and a whole lot more. We also have the Old Man Orange blog going with all kinds of fun stuff. If you easily want to support the show, use one of our Amazon links either on the website or in the description of the podcast below. Rate, review, and subscribe to the show either on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Newgrounds, or anywhere else that you seem to get this podcast from. Grab the sitcom-styled comic book Pizza Boys on either Comix Central, Comixology, or Amazon. Want more podcasts? Check out the Indie Comics Club over at Comix Central. I also got a workout website called Thor's Hidden Gym, filled with fitness tips and tricks, videos, and a whole lot more fun stuff in the calisthenics world. Talk to us on Twitter at Spencer S. Holmes and Dunigan Ryan. Like our Facebook pages of Old Man Orange Productions and Pizza Boys Comic. Thanks again. We're out of here.